Yep, we'll hang in there. All right, I'm going to call the March 6th meeting to order. Everyone, please take a seat. First up, the invocation. Pastor Butler. Oh, there you are. Everyone, please rise.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Almighty God, we give you praise and honor as we begin this evening's meeting. Thank you for allowing us to live the dream along this beautiful coast. Father, we ask your blessings upon our community, the bountiful commerce we enjoy. Watch over our fishing fleets, our captains and deckhands. Father, we ask you watch over our military, our first responders, healthcare, our schools and our educators, and our community spiritual leaders. Father, we also ask for you to watch over our tourists, especially this spring break month, and watch over us in this too, we pray. Father, we just ask that everything we do might be glorifying to you, that we come to the unity of faith, and Lord, that we walk in harmony in our community, and we ask that thy kingdom come and thy will be done. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Councilwoman Neighbor.
Yes, sir. Please join me with your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Play ball. All right, to start the meeting, we'll have the agenda approval. I'll entertain a motion at this
I'll
time.
make a motion to approve the agenda as.
All right, got a first. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, but I'd like to set aside the order of the day and bring where is it? 6G1 forward
All right, with
after the consent agenda.
all right, moving to the consent, after the consent agenda.
If the maker of the motion is okay with that.
Fine with that change?
All right, you have one change. Any other changes on the agenda today? Seeing none, the second, I'll move that to a vote. Oh, no, gotcha. Yeah, wrong one. There we go. Please vote.
Oh, they're on these. Do we? Of course, sure. Yeah.
All right, we good?
Yeah.
Is this projector, can we get this projector on?
It's not on now?
The one in front of us?
I know.
I think it's just
Oh, that's
a
right.
matter of turning it on.
All right, with that, we'll go into the proclamation for the flood awareness. Oh, and then approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I got a motion, do I hear a second? Got a second?
I thought we were.
Calling the vote?
So we got a couple other things before that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Proclamations.
Back it up a little
The
bit.
flood. Y'all were right the first time.
There's an agenda.
Yeah.
We gotta follow. It's all good.
All right, let me cancel it. Ray, can you cancel that? Yes. All right. Go up to the front. All right, well, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I appreciate everyone who's in attendance. I am sure we'll get to each topic in time, but before we do that, I wanted to bring out Michael Burgess here. He is in charge of this Flood Awareness Week. Am I going to read this or you? Okay, fine. All right, so the City of Destin Proclamation, Flood Awareness Week. Whereas the City of Destin has experienced severe weather in the past in the form of extreme rainfall or tropical systems, events resulting in flooding, and its flooding has caused damage and loss and flood loss to homes and buildings in all areas. Whereas they're high-risk special flood hazard areas or low to moderate risk flood zones. And whereas the City of Destin is a voluntary participant in the National Flood Insurance Program that provides residents with the opportunity to protect themselves against flood loss through the purchase of flood insurance at reduced insurance premiums, rates, as well as settling higher regulatory standards to reduce the flood risk and potential flood damage to their property. And hang on in there with me. Whereas the reduction of loss of life and property damage can achieve when appropriate flooding preparations, control, and mitigation measures are taken before in flood. And whereas public education and awareness of potential weather hazards and methods of protecting are critical to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, the Florida Floodplain Management Association has declared the week of March 6, 2023 as Flood Awareness Week to promote awareness and increase knowledge of flood risk, the availability of flood insurance, flood protection, flood methods, and how to prepare for emergencies. Now, thereas, be it resolved that the city of Destin, Florida, do here proclaim the week of March 6, 2023 as Flood Awareness Week in the city of Destin, and further encouraging the citizens of Destin to increase their knowledge of how to protect themselves and their property from flooding. So done this 6th day of March, 2023. All right, well, congratulations. Thank you so much.
He's taking the microphone away from me. No, this is Flood Awareness Week, and I've been working with our new PIO on our Facebook page and other social media outlets. This week we'll have 5 days of flood education. Today, if you go to our Facebook page, it'll talk about whether or not you are in a flood zone and how to determine whether or not, if we do have a tropical system or a hurricane or something like that, how it could potentially affect you. Tomorrow, it deals with flood insurance. Believe it or not, we're only 86 days away from the beginning of the 2023 hurricane season. Flood insurance typically has a 30-day lead time, so you don't get insured that day that you get your policy. You have to wait 30 days. So if you do have a flood insurance policy, fantastic. If you don't, think about it. Do I need one? Go to the website, and it'll tell you what flood zone you're in, or the Facebook page from today. Wednesday, we'll discuss property protection. We have a lot of homes in Destin that are in a special flood hazard area. What steps can you take to mitigate potential damage to your home in the event of a flood? Thursday, we'll talk about building codes and substantial improvements, substantial damage. What does that mean? If you don't know, check out our Facebook post on Thursday. And lastly, we're going to hit it up twice this week, Flood Insurance Friday. So there'll be additional information about flood insurance, the new premium calculation program that FEMA has for us, whether you agree with it or not. But it's out there. That information will be presented on Friday, along with website links and other helpful information. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns about your property or your flood insurance policy or anything flood, call Michael Burgess, your friendly floodplain manager. 850-837-4242, or go to mburgess@cityofdestin.com. Send me an email.
What would we do without you?
I have no idea.
All right, well, thank you. We found him from The Price is Right, so I appreciate you being with the city of Destin now. All right, back to the written program. All right, with that being said, at this point, we'll go into public comments. So at this point, 3 minutes, if there is on, if you guys want to just make a line or just have a couple at a time, we'll get around to everyone. Just need to say your first and last name, your address. I'll give you kind of like a 30-second warning, and please wrap it up at the 3-minute mark. There'll be another time to speak at the very end of this meeting for another 3 minutes. And please keep in mind that under our public hearings, we'll have another opportunity to speak on those matters specifically. So anything outside the public hearing information. So at this time, I'm going to go my left to the right. So ma'am, if you want to come on up. Just push and release the gray button. It'll turn red, and the floor is yours.
Good evening. Excuse me. Jeannie Hopkins, 3908 Indian Trail. I wanted to comment on the FAA's decision to allow sightseeing helicopters to resume business out of the Destin Executive Airport. I would like to know how the FAA has investigated the flight paths and altitudes taken by Timberview in 20 and 21. Has a recent noise impact study or environmental impact study been completed? Destin is a small, densely populated city with a very busy airport. The helicopters cannot fly at a safe altitude and avoid flying over homes. They have proven that in the past. And by the term safe, I don't just mean in the case of a machine malfunction or pilot error. I also refer to the health and welfare of its citizens and visitors. I have voiced my concerns to the county representatives and have urged an appeal of this decision. I hope you will do the same, and I hope to one day see an ordinance passed which will eliminate this type of business in our city by any company. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up.
Name and address, Shane Moody, President and CEO of the Destin Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for the time. Just some comments about some things on the agenda tonight. I know parking fees are on there. Just want to restate what I said at your planning session, $5 for an entire day at Marler parking lot's not enough. We need parking garages. The only way to get parking garages is to have the money. And so let's raise those rates if you can. I know it's different on the beach and even down behind McGuire's that, $5 for the day is not enough for those parking places. It's prime property. Don't be afraid to go up on it because people will pay it. Even if you want to max it out, say $5 an hour for the first 3 hours, $15 a day or $20 a day, whatever you want to do, but $5 a day is not enough. Second, I know that city manager and deputy city manager on the agenda tonight, you just moved that up to consent agenda, but I did want to reiterate what I said at the planning session, that when Destin Ford was here a few weeks ago, almost all of you were able to come and speak to them, and all the managers, supervisors with the city came and spoke. And for the first time in the 15 years we've been bringing Destin Ford here, every supervisor, manager who stood up said, "I've got the best job in the city of Destin." And to me, what that said, well, I had people coming in that weren't even speaking to Destin Ford. They came in just to say hello to me or to some people in the class, which to me shows the relationship that the chamber has with the city, a very important relationship and partnership to us. But I think it also speaks highly of the culture that's been built inside these two buildings. When everybody thinks they have the best job, that's something that's created at the top and handed down and flows through the organization. So you've got a really good culture in here now. You've got some of the best people that I can remember the city having. And I've been friends with a lot of people over the 19 years I've been here that work for the city. You got really good people in there right now. And the projects that are getting done are not little projects or small projects. They're actually big things. And I think that's very important too, that we're seeing that. And finally, Mr. Destin, I know you've got permitting under your name tonight to make it easier and quicker. Man, if you can do that. But I'll also add that's not a Destin specific, and y'all know this, it's not a Destin specific thing. With sessions starting tomorrow, I've had the pleasure of talking to or seeing many of my chamber friends across the state, and they're all still complaining about the permitting process in their communities. So just keep that in mind as you think about that. If you got a way, man, please do it. You know I'm behind that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anyone off on my left side? All right, going middle left. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comments. We'll continue on to 3 consent agenda. So at this time, do we want to poll and talk individually?
Motion to approve?
Motion and approve. Okay. Calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, so going under number G1 now. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr.
Take the
Mayor,
floor.
I'd like to ask if we could set our rules aside to have open discussion on this item, and based on the discussion, there may be motion that comes from the discussion with council.
Yeah, so moved. Let's go.
Is
It's
that,
up to the council if we want to vote on that.
I'd like to make a motion to
Yeah.
set aside the Robert's Rules of Orders to have discussion first on this item.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Discussion?
Yep.
Oh, we haven't had a second.
Yeah, second for discussion. You have a second? All right, for the second discussion?
To set aside the rules of order is what I would call an extraordinary measure. And after all the rules of order do is say that if you're going to have a discussion, that you need to make a motion so that you put parameters around what you're discussing. So I would be opposed to setting Robert's rules aside for, I can't tell what reason. It would set a precedent that would be not healthy for us. We'll just be setting it aside on a number of occasions, I suppose.
All right, Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, and I would support Mr. Destin's point. We're not a debating society. We're a city council. We make decisions and we provide direction to the staff. Those are the two primary functions of this body, not to sit up here and talk ad nauseum about something. So usually the way you do that is you make a motion and say, this is the sandbox, this is what we're going to talk about, whether it's a dock or whether it's helicopters or whether it's whatever. So if maybe I don't understand why we want to set aside the rules, but I'm not inclined to do that.
All right, want to answer that? Back to you.
Sure, I was just hoping to have an open discussion on a matter of this importance. I think we don't follow Robert's Rules of Order very often in regards to discussions and motions in this building. And if you don't want to do that in this case, I'm just trying to cordially ask to do this first. I'd be happy to throw out a motion and we can start the discussion after that, if there's even a second. But just trying to do the official way of asking for permission first.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Hopefully we can try to remember that in the future too. Then.
All right, I'll do my best. All right, calling the vote. All right, noes have it.
No worries. Mr. Mayor, I would like to move to place the city manager on a 120-day probationary period where we will reevaluate at the first meeting following the 120 days. During the next 120 days, the items to be considered will include, but are not limited to, the following. Would you all like me to list these items now or to finish the entire motion? Okay.
Yep, please.
Fill all the vacancies in the Community Development Department. Fill all vacancies in the Finance Department. Fill all vacancies in the Code Compliance Department. Provide a monthly code compliance report to include total number of cases and violations responded to based upon complaints versus the total number of cases and violations created by code compliance on their own accord, as well as the number of open cases, as well as closed due to coming in compliance. Complete the Royal Melvin Park. Execute 100% plans and kick off the start of the Clement Taylor Park. Provide a written plan on what tools, actions, and other items will be used to maintain our employees and keep them from leaving the city of Destin. Provide a written plan on Code Compliance Department actions to increase successful enforcement of illegal vessel operators at Joe's Bayou launch. Complete items 2.4A through H under the management objectives for fiscal year 2023. Provide and publish a list of all transient boat slips along the Destin Harbor. And complete a quality control assessment on the Code Compliance Department to create standards that are used with our policies and procedures.
All right, I have a motion on the table. Do I hear a second?
I'll give a second, just because I think that he needs to be heard, and we should respect everybody's position up here. So I want to support and give him a chance to speak what his concerns are.
All right, so have it. So we have a second on the table, so now we have discussion.
Sure, thank you, I appreciate it, Mr. Gao. I was elected to this position nearly 3 years ago, this coming November, by people that were sitting out here and maybe others that aren't here. I believe that it's my duty, and y'all's as well, but I'm speaking on my own accord, to represent the citizens of Destin as the number one priority, the Destin businesses as our number two priority, and our visitors as the number three priority. And I agree with that mission that we have on the City of Destin's website and that we plaster all over the place. And I try to live that every day when I'm acting on my personal level as well as the city's behalf. During my time so far on council, nearly 3 years, I have come to realize a few things in regards to the operations of City Hall, government, and what we do around here, and the leadership within it. While paper and tasks might be getting checked off and things are getting moved to the next office, phone calls are being answered and people are getting responses to those phone calls and emails are being done, there seems to be, to me, to be a repeated theme and common approach that I've noticed, as well as many constituents that I have spoken to in the city, business owners, visitors, the three customers of the City of Destin. I have learned from Mr. Bagby and others about the slow and steady pace, and that sometimes slower is the way to go on things. Mr. Destin as well, and I agree with that at times. That can be the motto. I get that. But I also know that it's not always done in that regards at all the time. So I've completed some research on some things over the past many weeks and months, and I have a few areas of concern in a few different categories that I'll briefly try to go through here. First is our personnel decisions that happen within the City of Destin in regards to high-level people, directors, people that are supervisors and things like that. Over the past few years, there have been certain employees that it seems that we will leave on staff that may or may not be doing the best job for the citizens of Destin. Employees that will get numerous complaints from citizens about the job that they are doing along the streets of Destin. But they'll stay on the staff. Then we'll have other employees, key employees in our city, directors of offices that will potentially leave the City of Destin for a new opportunity. Number one, number two key employees in our city that have opportunities to go somewhere else, but they give the city the chance to stay. For a week at a time, we don't get any calls from the city manager or the staff to talk about these people, this person. Instead, they resign until pressure, I believe, pressure is given from city council members about these people. Next thing you know, they're still here at the city, and I'm glad they are. The way that we act upon direction of the city council, as you heard, we give motions, we give directives. We can direct the city manager to do something. We can't direct the staff. We can't direct the employees. We're reminded of that often, and we understand that. I understand that there's more items and tasks that the city manager's office and staff will complete than just those things. We cannot micromanage every single thing they do. I get they have that ability to do that. I understand that sometimes we give motions and directions, and sometimes we'll just say, how does that sound? Y'all agree? And then we'll all nod our head and give thumbs up, and I think that gives them the direction, but not officially. It's a Florida statute because we didn't make a motion. But as time goes on, I see too many repeated times that we kind of say, what's the status of this? What's going on with that? We become almost secretaries of the city manager's office to say, why is this still 2 years later an item that we directed y'all on? We haven't gotten anything done. Give you two examples. We've been asking for enforcement in Joe's Bayou for illegal operators for nearly 3 years. Don't think there's been at least one actionable thing that has taken place to help the legal operators. That's a direction that we gave city manager and staff, city manager, multiple times over the past 3 years. One of the biggest situations I really feel strongly about And Mr. Mooney has come up here earlier and said some nice words about our staff. And he told the story about the vision session. I was there, that's right. And I'm sure that those people that came through there said that. We also have to remember that they're not going to just come in there and say something bad about their job right here in the halls of their job. And I don't agree with him in that regard. I don't agree that everybody loves their job and works here and loves working here. In 2020, we ended our year with 24 vacancies in the city of Destin. In 2023, we ended with 23 vacancies. In 2022, we ended with 30 vacancies. And I get COVID. I get everybody, we hear this, everybody's dealing with employment issues. I get that. But it's about what are you going to do to correct the ship? What actions are leaders taking to reverse those numbers? In 2020, we had a 17% turnover rate at the city of Destin. The following year, we had an 18% turnover rate in the city of Destin. Last year, we had a 37% turnover rate in the city of Destin. So while people will say they love working here and they love this place, the numbers to me and the people I talk to do not back that statement up. Maybe a handful of them do, but when you look at that and the amount of vacancies that we've had and the turnover rates that we've had and the massive increase in turnover rate, there's a problem to me. To me, it says that we have an issue inside the building. To me, it says that leadership is not instituting things to improve these numbers. To me, it says that we are not adapting what we do on a daily basis inside City Hall. At the end of the day, I believe that the buck stops at the top. The buck stops at the top. That person that's in charge, the coach, the number one person. And it's astonishing to me that we can only work with the city manager, but that whole office, the city manager's office, nearly cost the citizens of Destin $500,000 on a yearly basis. Nearly $500,000 for the office of the city managers. And at that cost, I would expect some different things on these numbers. And that's where my discussion will end for now.
All right. Councilman Guile?
Thank you. I appreciate the time. And Kevin, I appreciate your input, and I feel that you should have a chance to speak. I do have a few questions that I would like to ask. Is it all right if I ask you directly, Lance? Do you do annual reviews? Are you subject to annual reviews?
There's an opportunity for each council member to give me a review, and the new calendar, I believe, sets that in July of each year.
So the council members themselves give review, and you said that's in July. How many of the council members on this council or this dais typically give the review, annual review?
One or two.
One or two. So there's 7 of us, and only 1 or 2 of us are doing what apparently is our job to do. How many of the council members meet with you on a regular basis, discuss any of the topics or any of the concerns that have arisen or arise? I mean, saying outside of this dais, how many, how often? How many and how often?
The majority of council does get a briefing, whether it's in person or via Teams or the telephone.
Well, I'm not talking about the briefing. I'm saying where we set an appointment, we meet with you and we discuss whatever our issues possibly are and ask for your resolution. Outside of the Teams meetings, outside of the prep for this council, sort of like the luncheon you and I have weekly. We schedule weekly. How many of them do that?
It's rare. Once in a while, I'll have 1 or 2 members want to meet on a specific item.
Okay. Some of the other things I'd like to bring up, the Joe's Bayou thing that came about, I remember in August, I sat there as a citizen, and I introduced the potential or possibility of looking at a sheriff's posse to sit out there on that field or at that dock and kind of regulate. The only question I heard even arise was February during the visioning session. So as a citizen, as a concerted citizen, I brought up something that in August that wasn't even discussed until February. When I first took this position about the turnover rate, I had a meeting with all the directors for the city, and I asked Jamie Dittmer, our human resource risk management person, specifically what she felt the cause of some of these turnovers were, and a lot of that had more to do with pay and more to do with expectations from younger generation. I didn't hear anything that led management or management style or anything of that nature. Now, I'm not saying it's not happening, but they didn't feel comfortable enough to express that to me during that interview. So my question more than anything, based off everything I'm hearing, is how much of that is our responsibility and how much of that falls on to the city manager or city staff to get these things situated or even managed? How seriously are we taking this position? How much are we actually putting into, and I know we're putting in time. This is not a paid position. We're all busting our butts trying to get these things taken care of. I've been dedicating 20 to 30 hours a week strictly for city, meeting in certain areas to deal with this, and I'm sure you guys are doing the exact same. But one question I had for Kyle, especially because there was an issue that arose that I felt I was misled as a citizen, whose job is to call us out, and he made it very clear to me that the council is to self-police. It's our job to make sure that we're doing our job. So I'm wondering, is this a failure at the level that you feel it is, Kevin, or is this potentially a failure at our level? Are we not doing the self-policing that we should be doing? And I want to know what I'm failing, because I've only been here since November 28th. I have no background in politics or whatever this is. So I need to know specifically, what am I doing to fail, or is it beyond my capabilities? And I think that's what we need to figure out here, whether that's us or whether that's the step below us.
Right. Councilwoman Aber.
Thanks, Mayor. And Kevin, I appreciate you bringing up, a litany of things that are, over the years, are just don't seem to be happening, and giving a timeline. I personally have sat down with Lance. I've worked with Lance. As Parks and Chair Committee Chairwoman, I worked with Lance for years before coming onto this council 3 years ago when you came on, Kevin. And there were times that I was very disappointed in the productivity of what was going on at Lance's level, as far as things that we needed to get done and people that I thought he should be handling. And Lance was very honest and said, I do not beat people up in public. I praise in public and I admonish in private. And gave me a litany of things that he had taken care of that I had not even realized needed to be taken care of, because it got taken care of without it coming to us. So I feel some of your disappointment in these are the things that we should be seeing happening. But I've worked with Lance, and I try and meet with Lance personally about once a month, just to say, look, I feel like there's something, if you needed us as council at our level, not just city manager, to help you get things done, grants, and, talking to our public officials that are over us at either the state level or at the county level. And there's been things that I've worked with Lance and worked with our county commissioners and tried to push, and there's things on your list, and I know that you want to see them happen, but I don't think, even if we had some high, aggressive, over-the-top manager, would be able to do anything about some of these plans and programs and situations, because it is really who you got running the two parks, the people that we have hired, the people we are stuck with, that we're working with. So sometimes I feel like we don't know what he's been working on, because we only see what we see. So sitting down with Lance, I had some of the same feelings you did, that I don't think you're the right guy. You're too nice, Lance. And I think, Lance, you can tell everyone I said that. I said, you're too nice a guy. We need somebody that's going to come in here, kick butt, take names, and make people do what we need them to do, get these contractors to do stuff. And he gave me quite an eye-opener on some of the things that he has been dealing with and talking to, and who he's worked with. And progress that's been made on things we didn't even know about. So I understand your frustration, and I felt that way, but I'm in a point now that I feel like we are moving in the right direction. We are having a lot of things that are coming to us that are falling into place. So I don't know if putting a 120-day deadline on Lance to finish 2 parks, I don't think that's realistic in the world that we're currently in right now. Now, Joe's Bayou, we could definitely do something about that. And I think that Lance could take the list that you have written out tonight, and he can probably make some of those things happen within 120 days. But I'm not sure if we could really, as a council, put all these on him as, okay, if you don't get these done, you're fired. And that's just my personal opinion.
All right, thank you. Bagby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Kevin, I want to thank you for, I know you've had this on like the last 3 agendas, and I think Mr. Destin and I were out one, and I think a couple other folks were out. A couple other folks were out at the last one. Now we're all kind of here except Matthew. So I appreciate you wanting to get everybody's feedback. And Tori, I want to thank you because I agree pretty much with everything you said. And I've said it before. The problems that we have are our problems, by and large. Either we haven't been clear in setting direction or objectives or goals or whatever, or we haven't followed up, or we've been distracted by something else, and we have to own it. We have to own it. You know, we talked in the visioning session about council members attending the Institute of Elected Municipal Officials, level 1 and level 2 training. I know the mayor graduated, heck, he was on the council for like 4 months and he had already graduated both courses. It took me like 2 years. Of course, Mr. Destin wrote the courses. But, you know, we have to own this. And I get a little confused sometimes when we say, you know, like personnel, okay, finance. Well, who authorizes finance positions? Oh, that would be us. So for the longest time, when Crystal needed help, she needed more people. Well, she didn't have the authorization from us to get more people. Then we gave her the authorization to get more people, and it's not easy. I get that. I've been in my new job for over 3 months, and I'm still trying to find people to fill vacancies that we've had then. You know, we can't tell code enforcement, and yeah, I've been frustrated every year I've been up here, I've been frustrated to some level with code enforcement. But we can't tell a code enforcement director, we, council members, that they're on a short leash with one of us, because they're not on any leash with any of us. So I would just say, I'm not going to support it. The thing I would say is, you know, and I know it's not because you've waited 3 meetings or 4 meetings to bring this up, but when you go through this litany, and it's like, you could have shared that 3 or 4 meetings ago. And I could have said, hey, I agree with you on 2.4B or whatever. I don't even know what I don't have them right here in front of me. But to say, and to just go down this list, and I agree with Teresa. You know, parks, they got to be done in 120 days. People, we've been working on that crosstown connector. When he and I and Dewey were on this dadgum, and Sandy were on this council, okay?
Couple decades.
Yeah, 10 years ago, we had already bought the land, and we still don't have it. And we don't even have the property. We barely got plans, but finally we got through that to where that it was acceptable. But guess who that comes back on? That comes back on us because it's going to be 2-lane. No, it's going to be 4-lane. No, it's going to be 2-lane. We want a park. No, we wanted this. No, we want drainage. We want this. And that's all up here. It's not out there. It's not down there at the end of the dais. It's all up here. And we got to own it. And I will tell you, we can be better. We should be the council that our staff deserves. And I'm not sure every day we do that. You know, I think we do a good job. I think we've gotten a hell of a lot better in the last couple of years, but I think we can be even better. And part of that is training ourselves, developing some cohesion, you know, expertise in whether it's tourism or roads or parks or whatever. You know, everybody knows not all I care about, but I do the budget. I do money. That's where my focus is. I care about the other stuff, but my expertise is there. And so I just want to say, sit down, and you probably have. Sit down with Lance and say, here's my expectation. And if he's, you know, if he totally blows you off, bring it to the council and say, this is my expectation, but don't bring us a whole laundry list at one time and say, he hadn't done this, and this, because a lot of that, this, and this resides with the 7 people up here.
Kevin, I got you up next, but I'm going to, yeah, we'll let everyone else go and you follow up. All right. All right, so up next is going to be Destin, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion as made is really a recipe for failure. In 120 days, we can't accomplish everything that Kevin had on, the city manager can't accomplish everything that's on the list. Since we are up to evaluate the city manager in July, 5 months, I think an appropriate substitute motion would be to revisit the subject in 6 months when it's time to do the evaluation. And not necessarily with the list, because like I said, no one could get that list done. So I'll offer a substitute that we revisit this subject during the annual review in July.
Second.
I got a first and a second, so with that, any discussions on that, or we're going to vote there, and then we'll continue the subject. So, call the vote.
Did Johnny want to talk about
Do you still want to talk about it?
Let him talk.
Okay.
We can vote on the second.
Yeah.
You can discuss it. You can discuss it.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to keep going. I didn't want this to rail the conversation.
You're just discussing the subject.
All right, thank you. All right. Ray. Yeah,
Thank
Johnny,
you,
go
sir.
ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say some of the same things Mr. Destin said. I won't be supporting that motion for sure. You know, the city manager's job is to take the direction that we give them and do his best to distribute that to the staff to get the things done. I would like to just reiterate the fact that the list that you've come up with is an absolutely impossible. I mean, it would be completely impossible to do. And I don't suppose that I'm an expert on how to get all those things done. So to vote on such a thing would have been, without the information of what it would take for him to get those things done and what avenues that it would take to get those things done, we're not here to be the city manager. You know, I would like to see the job description laid out and what it entails exactly, for sure, before I would vote on that. You know, what we're asking, what the previous motion is asking is for us to do exactly that, to micromanage Lance, and that's not our job. On top of that, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of people who are coming to work here. The vacancies that we still have. It's frustrating. It's a frustrating thing to me because we are filling these positions. I think that Lance and Webb are doing a fine job. And I've got more on that, but, you know, I would be more inclined to, for sure would be more inclined to support Mr. Destin's motion. So, thanks.
All right, Kevin, wrap it up.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thank you all for your feedback. And, you know, Mr. Bagby, there's a good thing about what we do. Sometimes we can do it when we want to do it, you know. That's the ability that we have. So I chose to wait, and here we are talking about it. Happy not to provide a litany of a laundry list, but you wanted a motion, so I provided the motion for you. If somebody wants to make a substitute motion to take away items, they're more than welcome to do that, to make a list smaller. It's not our job to micromanage. I get it. It's our job to give them direction. We have. We've been doing that. Just for everybody's awareness, the list that I've come up with of measurable items or whatever you want to say, half of them are from the approved list that was for this fiscal year to evaluate him on. So on that list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the deadline that somebody wrote, we didn't write these, has already passed. So, I'm just going off of the list that was already here. Completing the park projects at Royal Melvin and Clement Taylor Park was on this list. It's not my item. So I'm not trying to create a bunch of things to say gotcha in 120 days. I'm trying to put things that are pretty much already on the list to say, we've been talking about this. We've been discussing this, and it's not happening. So, I've taken that list, and that's fine. Mr. Gala, I did meet with Mr. Johnson about some of these things. I have told him a few months ago about where I stand, so I've done that. I'm not sure if you were just asking in general terms. Crystal didn't have authorization to add staff to her department, you say, because we didn't allow her or we didn't give her the opportunity. The opportunity is Crystal's and the city managers to come to the city council to say, we need to put some people in the finance department. Will you all allow us to do that? I don't believe it's our job to come up with every single thing that the HR department should do to create a good workplace. I don't think that's not our job. I don't think we should be sitting here saying every time we think a department needs to add levels. So Crystal could have come to us. I believe she did the right thing where she went to the city manager and she requested it. We never heard from it until after the resignation was done. So again, I started with the motion. I gave you a list of things. I fully respect everybody. Sunshine Law does not allow us to converse these things outside of this meeting. And so this is a topic that we need to have right here. And I started with the motion. That's why you got that list. And I will gladly support Mr. Destin and do that. And we can reevaluate it at that meeting based upon the exact same list that's right in front of us. So thank you.
All right, with that, I don't see any further discussion, so we'll cast the vote.
Can we
For the
rediscuss?
substitute motion. Does anyone need to hear that?
Yeah, can I hear the substitute one more
Ray, can you
time?
give us the sub?
Substitute motion is to address this issue in July during city manager evaluation period.
Right, got it? All right, so we're going to be voting on that motion. Ayes have it, so moved. All right, getting into the number 4 city's managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. First item is we have an update on the InterGov Assistance Consulting and Implementation Services that we are contracting out for to assist us with our Compass program and making it a lot more user-friendly, and Mr. Warren has the update on that.
Thank you, Lance. Yes, so the item before you is for our InterGov Assist Consulting and Implementation Services. Basically what this is, the best way I can provide an analogy is sometimes if you call up tech support, let's say for your iPhone or Microsoft, you might get one technician, and then you call up the next day, you get another technician, and so your support can be a little bit disjointed. On this item, what it will actually do is take this to a project level and provide dedicated support with the same individuals, but also a project manager. And that project manager stays throughout the project and allows staff to collaborate with them to identify priorities and to start working through those priorities to start improving the system. It's been very successful at other cities, and so staff has brought that forward. I think most of it is paid out of the tech fund, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, so Teresa.
I move to direct city manager to execute a contract with Tyler Technologies for InterGov Assist up to the amount of $80,000 from account 12552-400-531000.
I got a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, with a second, we'll open up for discussion. And first up is going to be Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe we discussed this at council and may even made a motion at the time. And so is this the implementation of that direction where we wanted to get technical support for the staff?
That is correct. Now that the new SaaS system is in place, we're able to take advantage of these services. And this will, again, not only provide technical support, but it will provide process improvement and business process support as we move forward with this project.
Thanks.
Bagby?
Yeah, and I should know this. Crystal, what is account 1255-2400-531000?
That's the.
I should know
technology-
it, but-
Yeah, that's the technology fund, which is expressly
The
to. sup-
separate technology fund that we're
Correct.
populating?
So we take 10% of permit and license fees.
Right.
To fund the technology, which is for permitting and licensing.
All right. I just want to make sure one comes from our contingency, not the contingency.
All right, with no other discussions, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Next up, we have Mr. Burgess is asking for some direction, some permission to use other surfaces where we need truncated domes at each of our crosswalks. That's an ADA requirement. Right now, I believe our policy requires it be stamped in the concrete, and Mr. Burgess has some other options that are less expensive and can be implemented quicker, not in all cases, but in some cases, this could be very helpful to the city, and I'll leave it to Mr. Burgess to answer any questions.
All right, so with that, I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move city manager be authorized to use surface-applied and anchored ADA detectable warning devices on public sidewalks and within city properties in addition to cure-in-place products.
Motion is second. Any discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4C is Resolution 23-04 that council had asked staff to bring back regarding the formation of a short-term rental impact committee, and we are asking for council's approval of this resolution, and then we could move forward with the rest of the nominations for the committee if it passes.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2304.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I'm glad you're going to second your own stuff here. All right, so any discussions on this? All right, seeing none, calling the vote.
Do you want us to put our nominations in the motion or approve the resolution?
We've got to approve, and then we'll open up for that. Kevin. There you go. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Is it okay if I go ahead since we're on this topic to
Yeah,
add a
yeah, might as
nomination?
well. I assumed this was going to happen, yep.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Marcy Bell for my position.
All right. Second, any discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. All right, congratulations, Marcy Bell.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Calling the vote. All right, congratulations. Okay, anyone else have anyone for tonight? All right.
Anyone that wants to be on that committee, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to nominate you.
All right, seeing no other nominations, we'll move on. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4D is an update from Mr. Burgess on the Legion Drive safety and operational evaluation. Michael?
Sure, thank you, Lance. Per direction of council, we took the proposal that we had received from Volkert Engineering to the Public Works and Safety Committee for their review and questions and subsequent recommendation to this body. After that meeting, we had other discussions internally, and we reached back out to Volkert Engineering to modify the scope of work for that potential study on Legion Drive and the intersection of Main Street, Legion, and Airport. We received a modified scope of work and a cost proposal from them on Friday, I believe. so we didn't have time to get it in your agenda packet for this evening. However, City Engineer Ryan Scott and I had a nice conversation with our county traffic engineer, Randy Showers, last week. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. I get my days mixed up. But we had a conversation with him last week, and we have made a modification to the signal operation there. And just like any good scientific experiment, you need a control. So we have, weeks of data prior. And with this modification that was made effective Friday, we'll kind of review the data after this week and just see if any performance has been, if we've gotten any blood out of that turnip, as it were. See if we could get more cars through the intersection. And we'll have a report for you on that at the next council meeting, along with the proposal from Volkert Engineering. And that's my update.
I just got a question for you, Michael. What is like the variable that we're changing up?
Honestly, Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't like to disclose that because it's almost like you're kind of giving it away.
Okay.
We just want to kind of work in a, just do what it does.
All right, then I'll just remind everyone to be off your cell phones and
yeah,
be ready for
after the
green
week,
light.
after the week is up, we'll be able to see if there's been an improvement in performance.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else have any discussion?
I just want to thank Mr. Burgess for going the extra mile and asking more questions with the people that he's talking to and continuing to go further, Mr. Burgess. Thank you.
Good job. All right, with that, do I hear a motion on the table? No? Oh, it's just okay. I thought, okay, update, sorry about that. All right, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Item 4E, we have the Tarpon Beach and the Shores at Crystal Beach Park plans for council's review and approval to move forward. Mr. Bagby was our council liaison and attended the meetings with staff, and we have Mr. Warren here to help answer any other questions.
All right, with that being said, Mr. Bagby, if you want to
I move to
discuss.
accept the plans for Tarpon Beach and the shore of Crystal Beach and direct city manager to work with Okaloosa County to procure construction contract for the parks.
Second?
All right, with a second, any discussions? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. When was this something you got to do, Mr. Bagby? Take place in these design meetings and things like that, or what capacity were you involved in what's being presented
Yes,
tonight?
as the legislative sponsor, I did talk to the design, I talked to the TDC, I talked to our staff, both our engineers, public works, I think Lance and Webb and Michael, I think we had everybody in there, plus consulting engineers or consulting architects, I can't remember what they were, and we went back and forth. There were some changes made, the pork chop, the traffic flow in, the turn lane, trying to do the traffic one way because traffic coming off of Dolphin. Another thing that we wanted to do was keep the view corridors as open and unobstructed as possible so that when you come down Dolphin or you come down Tarpon, you can actually see the Gulf of Mexico as opposed to some ugly metal roof or shed. And Lance and Webb can do a lot more, but or go in more detail. We increased the number, I believe, but made smaller the pavilions so that one family couldn't take over, the one big pavilion where we could have multiple smaller gatherings and grandparents could be up there. We made sure that the little hut for the TDC didn't obstruct the view. It's only 9 feet tall at the top. Perfect. Webb, I've missed about 100 things, but you can fill him in.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Yes, I think the vision that we have discussed all along is trying to maximize the view corridors, and I think this design has done just that, as well as ADA accessibility and the restroom facilities. I want to thank Okaloosa County. Their staff has been great to work with. Our staff is always fantastic to work with. Appreciate the process.
So the Little Adventures Outpost has a permanent spot on the plan. Is that what that means?
I believe that is a pad. It is not per se an actual structure that would stay there.
They're going to set those up just during the summer months, so they will be removed just because they are not going to be concreted in place.
And does the design at Crystal Beach basically mean that we're no longer pursuing the parcel that we were trying to buy for 2 years? Just kind of end that pursuit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pursuit was already ended by council, but yeah. I mean, Jim could probably speak to this more, but the parking lot could be potentially expanded if the city were to ever acquire that parcel in the middle there.
Was that thought of or
That-
considered?
And I want to be very careful here because it's not us, it's the Trust for Public Land. So I want to make sure, my understanding is there are multiple options under discussion. For example, he might lower the price for that parcel, and the county and us might have the option to buy that parcel. There might be an option where the parcel that we own to his east might find its way into some kind of trade to a parcel to our western parcel, which would actually create I don't want to say coterminous, that's not the right term, a larger parcel. There are a lot of options, but we are not the driver on those options. The Trust for Public Land is the driver. I guess that's where I should probably stop. We're not going to count our chickens, but we are still investigating. The county is still investigating. Trust for Public Land is still investigating. We are still focused on trying to maximize the beach front city property parks. I guess that keeps me out of trouble.
Was there any discussion about the design of it besides it being just a big parking lot? Was there any discussion about, some green area, some, splash pad area, some trees, something on any of them besides just providing parking spots? So I know in the past we've talked about creating some type of park, half and half parking lot / area for kids to shower and play in a pad and things like that, but I don't know because I'm not in these meetings. So.
This is strictly beach acquisition, not making it into a park more. It's more of giving opportunity for the parking lot for the beach access, now that it's going to be completely visually beautiful. So no, we're not putting a splash pad or anything else there. Okay. We're keeping this for strictly beach parking and access to the beach and water.
All right. Well, I saw that the owner will sell it for $7.6 million, he said. It's for sale. So he said we could buy it if anybody's interested.
Is he coming here?
I don't know. It's just what it's what he told us. So.
Awesome. My only comment on that is, as I've been exploring ADA mats on the beach, I would just hope that the county could work with us in getting some mats out there. I know that goes through the FWC permitting process, so I'd love their county support if this is going to be on their land, or I don't know who owns it at the end of the day, but to make sure that FWC gets contacted, because I would definitely want to see the ADA mats out there. All right, so with that, I don't see an update next to the word, so that sounds like we're calling a vote. There we go. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4F is staff requesting direction from council on our paid parking and the fees associated with those around Destin. Currently, in the Harbor District, we're at $5. I can tell you that most folks in the Harbor District are at $15 to $20. So we're really just looking for the direction from council. There's room for us to increase it. We could certainly use those funds. We need some sustainable funds for various things, including additional parking. So it wouldn't be out of line if we doubled to 10. It probably wouldn't be out of line if we went higher than that, but that's council's decision.
All right, so with that, I got Councilman Guile up first.
Citizens that have a pass, they are not going to be subject to the parking fine increase, correct?
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
All Destin full-time residents get 2 parking passes, so that they shouldn't be concerned with this.
Okay, the thing I'd like to bring up is, I took my daughter to Steamboat Springs, and I paid $65 for 4 hours. And we are much more desirable than Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I don't think we should be looking at doubling. I think we should be looking at $50 to $100 parking fee, in my opinion. People want to come here. This is a desirable place. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep paying. So I don't think we charge enough for half the things that we offer here. Well, any of the things we offer here. I think that should be a substantial increase. So that's my input on the parking fees.
All right, do we want to go into a motion before we get into full discussion, or are we just going to keep? All right, keep on going.
So I'm the legislative sponsor for this, and like Mr. Guile brought up, other areas, I was in Nashville, it's $35 for 2 hours and $10 for every hour after that. Atlanta, nowhere, you can't park anywhere for less than $35, and in 4 hours, it jumps up to $55. So discussing with the staff this week, we talked about going back to what, would be realistic if we just went with a $30 flat parking fee throughout the city and made it easy, that's what it is, no matter what. I do know that there are several restaurants that are now going to charge to park there, $10, and 4 hours later, you will be paying $1 an hour afterwards. Even though you've eaten there, you're still going to pay to park. And from what I understand, the Emerald Grand is going to double theirs as well this spring, and watch it, and they may even go up to 30 by the summer. But I feel like we're not asking more. We are basically trying to give our city the option to build a nice, beautiful garage, and we can't do that charging $5 a day. And so I'll let further conversation go on, but I'll make the motion to lock it in $30 throughout the city unless somebody else has a better price.
All right, Councilman Smith. First.
I'll make, yeah, you want me to make the motion?
If you want to make the motion first.
I'll make the motion to flat rate $30 parking for 24 hours throughout the city.
All right, I got a motion on the table. Do I hear a second?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
We have two separate zones. One is the beach zone, and one is the harbor zone. The beach zone, it has always been our goal to try to turn those spots over. So that's why we limited it to a smaller number of hours. 4 hours, I think, is what we proposed this time, and we're on 5 right now. So there's two parts to the motion if council wants to consider 2 zones. The other thing that's very important is that we include that we will need to make an amendment to the fee schedule if we do this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the beach. All right, so I do have Kevin up next, unless we're in the middle of a motion. If I hear a second, we can discuss it and have a sub. All right, so the motion dies for lack of a second, and we'll bring up the discussion.
Just to confirm, the citizens pass is for both areas though, right?
That's right.
And the current beach rate is how much?
$5 for 5 hours.
$5 for 5 hours. Okay, thank you. Just want to clarify.
All right, up next, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. One of my businesses is directly across, or very close to directly across from that parking lot. I watch it all day, every day, and I actually direct people over there from our parking lot. And I can tell you that the only time it's absolutely full is during crazy holiday weekends. And the folks that come will just about do anything not to pay for parking. But they've started using it because it's reasonable and it's convenient. I'm afraid that what we will do by raising it too high, they'll stop using it. I mean, they are trying to park all over us now because we don't charge. And I understand that a number of my fellow merchants down there are going to start charging $15 or $20 to their own customers, and we'll see how that works out for them. But $30 is way too much. They're just not going to use it. Should we go to, I noticed that Pensacola, which has one of the most successful parking schemes going, charges Their comparison was 50 cents an hour, so you get 10 hours for $5. Panama City, which is our next closest neighbor, is $2 per hour with a $12 max. Should we go up? I don't have a terrible problem with that. Maybe to double it, or to go to an hourly and charge the $2. But to go to $30, we're just going to fix it up where people just won't use it, and they'll be parking all over me, and I'm going to have to chase them around all day, which I do not look forward to.
All right, with that, up next, Councilman Bagby.
Okay, well, I'll readjust here. I was going to go higher. But I want to find a consensus so we can get this. So I'll make a motion that in the town center areas, we charge $2 per hour. And in the beach area, we charge $5 per hour.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Discussion, Johnny?
Just real quick, and I'm all in favor for raising it. I think it, I don't know, about $100 a day. That seems a little crazy, but there's got to be, it's got to be increased. So I would support that. I think comparing us to Panama City and Pensacola is I don't know about that. No offense. I just think it's a totally different thing. I have a question about the Noriega Point, that public parking there. You know, a lot of people, and I don't know if this is kosher, but you know, a lot of the captains and deckhands and people who own boats in East Pass Towers and some of those places, you know, they might be gone for, they may be there for 12 hours, they may be gone for 48 hours. You know, what's the solution there?
Yeah, they have passed it, they have done.
Yeah, so what if it's, I mean, there's guys that are captains and deckhands from Fort Walton that come here to work, you know, all day, but they got to go re-up, you know, or what if they're on a 36-hour trip? What do you do then?
Right now, it's an app, and you give your credit card number. So I guess as you stay longer, it charges your credit card more.
I've never had to use it. I don't know how the app works. These are questions that I've got a friend who's a captain down there, and he calls me about every other week. Like, man, what's this guy doing here? Giving me another ticket. I'm like, man, you should go talk to the city. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, seriously.
Kevin?
Sure. Webb, how does it work if we were to change it to that hourly? How is that being tracked?
So it would be done through the app. I think it would be fine. The challenge is if they keep upping every hour as an individual transaction, which sometimes we see, then the net revenue to the city would be actually less because the credit card fees will hit each time.
But the enforcement of it, right?
The enforcement will still be built within the app. So the app will have their license plate and they'll be able to check that. I would say that maybe it's a little bit easier when you have a longer period of time because you don't have, they're already in the system and it's just easier to enforce.
But if you do it for 2 hours, who's going to come by after 2? How do we know when their time's up?
When code compliance goes by.
Right.
And in the app, it'll tell them, is this license plate registered?
I think that's too much to put on code compliance. We don't have people that just go around looking at parking lots. They're not supposed to be doing that. I'd make a substitute motion just to keep it simple and double it to $10 for 24 hours and $10 at the beach, and tickets are $100 if you get a ticket.
Would you consider doing $20? I'm not
negotiating.
Well,
it's currently It's currently $33 for a ticket, right?
The ticket is currently $33.
You could be going down. I was just going to go to 100, but go to 50. I don't care. But you're going down.
I was talking about something. I'm
Ticket.
sorry. Okay. Sorry. Forgive me. Yeah, I was thinking a different route.
So my substitute is to go to 10.
Webb?
Just want to make sure, to clarify, there
Sure.
is currently no overnight parking, as Mr. King was alluding to. And again, that's to promote turnover and also businesses not
There's your answer
leaving
to
them
your
there.
friend.
All right. Mayor, I have a
Okay,
question.
Teresa.
Mr. Mayor,
So,
I'm sorry, are you okay adding to your motion the amendment to the fee schedule?
I'm sorry, I thought I covered all of that.
That's all right.
Yeah, and the tickets to $100, oh, and to make the appropriate amendment to the fee schedule?
So we just do it, sorry.
All right.
I wanted to find out before we locked in the pricing, the 4 hours at the beach, the turnover is what you're trying to do. So if we took the beach cost and made it $10 for 4 hours, that would work, right? Is that what you're saying, Kevin? Is that what you're proposing, is $10 for the 4 hours that they want on the beach?
Right, $10 for the other ones.
And then $20 for the other lots?
Nope, just doubling them both, keeping it simple, 10 here and 10 there, instead of 5.
I don't think we're charging enough, but I'll support it if the rest of the team here feels like that's where we need to go.
I just
feel like
prefer that rather than an hourly thing. I think the hourly option is not good for the enforcement side, not good for our code people, and if we should do a fixed one. So if you want to go more than 10, I mean, go for it. I'm just throwing it out there to get moving.
That's where I was going with it, was $20 a day. And a day is 4 hours, is that right?
That's
I'm
on the
12.
beach.
That's just, okay.
All right, Councilman Guile.
I feel like we're just going to keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I do understand what Mr. Destin's saying, but I still think it needs to go higher. I still don't think $10 is high enough. So if I could just add on Kevin's, make it $20 instead of the $10, so $20 for 4 hours, $20 for the parking, and the $100 fine, I would agree
Real
with it.
quick, I'm gonna, Kevin's motion never got a second, I'm gonna second Kevin's motion.
Okay, got it.
And I'll make that change that Mr. Giles, I'm accepting that change to
Y'all really
20.
going to test me tonight.
And I'll
on this.
second that also.
Everybody following this? Ray, you following it?
Mr. Giles,
So you're subbing.
could you
The
repeat that
second, are
again?
you okay with his?
So take
change?
Kevin's and double it. Whatever Kevin said, double it, but we'll stick with the $100 fine.
And I'm okay with that change to my substitute
And so is the
motion. Are
second.
you okay, Johnny, to change that?
Second.
All right. Continue if you have anything else, and then we'll open up back to your next.
So we're back on the 4 hour, which I'm okay with. What is it for town center? 20.
And you mean the harbor, right?
And so Harbor's 20 for 4 hours and the beach is 20 for 4 hours.
No.
What is it
Harbor
at
is
the beach?
$20 for 24 hours instead of $5 right now. He was just correcting it. It's not in the town center, it's the harbor district.
Okay, Harbor.
And then it's 20 in the beach district for 4 hours. So nothing's changed about the time. It's just we're changing it from $5 to $20 and from 33 to 100. It's the only change we're making.
So
I
in the
would like to
Harbor,
clarify.
I just want to make sure I understand the motion. In the Harbor, it's $20 and I can park there for 24 hours.
Is there overnight parking? No, there's no overnight parking, so it's for the day. The day.
Okay. Dawn to dusk. Okay.
You can't say that because if people go down there for fireworks and leave at 10 o'clock. So
Yeah.
you basically don't say 24 hours, you say for 20 hours, and then you kind of let them
It's all
know
day
it's not
parking.
all night.
Just not all night.
Right, all day parking.
Now, see this, and the reason this is important is because having
Johnny's.
had a code enforcement department that I oversaw, overnight parking was, if somebody was there between midnight and 5 a.m., they were considered overnight. Okay, but if they were there till midnight, because they were watching fireworks or they were coming out of a bar or whatever, they weren't considered overnight. So I'm just trying, because now we're going to ask these folks to enforce this, and we need to be very specific. So it's $20 per day
In the harbor,
in the harbor area,
$20 for 4 hours.
and $20 for 4 hours at the beach.
Yes.
And that will include Noriega Point when we open that parking lot,
Correct.
okay?
And a $100 fine.
And so not that I want to make this more difficult, but I just want to ask. I go down to the harbor, I pay my $20, I decide to run back to my house, take a shower, which, because I went down there for an event or something, and then I take my wife to Dewey's for dinner, which we do regularly. And is my parking still good Because I paid for it a whole dang day. I want my whole dang day.
It is not reserve a spot. However, if it is an all-day, then if there is a spot available, you can go back in.
Okay.
Yeah, based off the license plate.
I would say go get your sticker.
All right. Yeah, my only thought would be, if the harbor for Emerald Grand is at 20, we're going to be comparable to them. So,
Absolutely.
awesome. Councilman Destin.
Just so I'm clear what we're doing, we're gonna quadruple our parking fees in the town center, and that or more in Crystal Beach from last year to this year. Go up 400%. What worries me about that is the perception that people who come here to visit Destin are going to get, that we're trying to choke the golden goose or whatever we want to call them. We want the people to use the parking lots. If they don't use the parking lots, then they are a wasted effort. So to raise the prices so dramatically from one year to the next, just is pretty distasteful, I think, to me, and I'm pretty sure it will be to the folks who come to the harbor to try to do business.
My only thought would be, we went to the TDC year review of where everything's at, and, we're really doing a pretty cognate job of attacking and targeting some of these metropolitan areas that are these bigger examples. So I think while it might be something new to a fishing village now city, I think to some of these bigger cities, they're one ticket away. Chicago, DC, all these people are one flight away now. I think for them, it's part of life. Bagby.
Yeah, my concern is different than Mr. Destin's. Living out in Crystal Beach, my concern is we chase these people out of the parking lots there, and then they go back to parking in the right-of-way, which is why I want one of the priorities for code enforcement is parking in the right-of-way south of 98, ticketing the heck out of those folks, because all they'll do, you're not solving a problem if you raise it too high in the beach. I'm not talking about the harbor, but at the beach, you're just moving the problem. And we're going to move the problem to my neighbors' front yards in the right-of-way. Not really their front yards, it's the right-of-way, but they consider it their front yard. So I would like for us to do a beta test during spring break if we could. And then I'd like code and the city manager to come back at the end of April or the first meeting in May and say, hey, parking revenue was down or it was up, or tickets were up or down because everybody just went to the right of way. I don't know what's going to happen. I think I know what's going to happen, but I want to do the data. I want you to tell me the facts, okay? So I think we understand. And to Teresa's point, I get Walton County's bed tax number still. For the fiscal year, they're down over 4% over last year. So it's not like this golden goose can't be killed.
Right, with that.
Would that be an amendment to the motion? We change from a permanent change to a pilot program?
In the motion, are you guys okay with that, as far as from this being a permanent?
What is that gonna, can you just come back to us after we do it, and then we change it then if we need to change it?
Yeah, we'll
okay?
keep it until we change it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll amend the motion to add that y'all bring us back an update after spring break.
So
No, we're not gonna be able to implement it that fast, are we?
that is correct.
Right.
We
It's
still
like
have to do
this week.
signage and things like that. We need a little bit of time to actually implement it, and spring break would be very aggressive in order to do so. I understand that.
How about we just change it and then a couple months, bring us a
What
report?
takes, is it just getting the signs printed?
Was May 15th the right date we talked about, Webb?
That is correct. May 15th is a reasonable date. It would fall between spring break and Memorial Day.
Okay, then after this summer, not after spring break, after this summer season, you come back and tell us in August, we increased revenue by triple, or we decreased revenue, but the tickets went up because people were parking all in Dewey's place.
All right, with no other discussion, Ray, can you please read the motion on the table?
Please. Adjust the harbor parking fees to $20 per day. beach parking fees to $20 for 4 hours, $100 fine for parking, illegal parking, and to provide an update in August, did you say, August?
Don't forget the part about the amendment of the
Oh,
fee
yes,
schedule.
make the appropriate amendment to the fee schedule.
Call the vote. Oh, no, that was perfect. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Next up, we have item 4G, and it's regarding Joe's Bayou passes and fees. Councilwoman Hebert is the legislative sponsor again for considering this, and we're looking for direction from council as to if we should return the resident annual fee to $30 or another number. It was at $30 before it was rescinded down to zero a few years back, and we're looking to reinstate the $30 fee for residents' annual pass, and consider changing the daily rate if that's what council wanted to do. So we're looking for direction on this, and I don't know if Councilwoman Hebert.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to go on what Lance was talking about, was we had looked at, several years back, it was $30 for annual passes for residents to Joe's Bayou. So it would not be anything out of the norm, just to go back to, that's an annual $30 pass for everyone in Destin to launch their boat throughout the summer, winter, whatever. It's good for a year. And then for anyone that is launching, which is usually out-of-towners anyway, $30 a launch. And then if we agree to that, that would also help in the parking fees. And anyone that parks across from Joe's Bayou to get in a boat, that lot, am I right on that, Lance, that we would turn that lot across the street, the Mattie Kelly lot, into a public parking lot? So that folks in a regular car getting on some family boat aren't just parking over there for free, because if they were a resident, they'd have a sticker, but if they don't have a sticker, then they're an out-of-towner, and they would be paying the daily rate of $20 to park.
So currently, that is not designated as a pay lot, but council can designate that as a pay lot.
I like that. Let's do that. Yeah, I think
And
this
that's
being our
kind of what I was
local park.
hoping that we could all agree on, making that a paid lot as well, because, you know, again, the residents will have stickers, they're not going to have to pay. So,
Smith, anything else on that?
Yeah, I mean, I just was hoping to hear some other thoughts on, rather than charging the citizens for the annual pass, just leaving it for them as is and just changing the daily fee for the people that aren't citizens. I mean, it's the citizens' part, you know? So part of me thinks about not bringing back the annual pass, but just increasing the daily launch fee.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I had to say about that, I was talking to some of our directors, and, you know, there's locals who have kids that have to pay for our parks and our recs and our teams. So the fact, you know, to have a luxury as a boat and to have this as a free thing, I definitely don't want to charge the residents, but then you're charging the mom and the kids. I mean, I'm sure your kids are in it, and, you know, you're having local kids charge a fee for programming. I just feel like, you know, this is a luxury and they're not paying. I know we're a fishing city community now.
Yeah, we also tax the citizens. you
Yeah.
know,
No, so I can see this both ways,
to
but
maintain our parks.
yeah. All right,
So-
Councilman Guile?
I agree with Kevin on this one. Citizens come first. We suffer enough as it is throughout the season with not being able to grocery shop on Saturdays, not being able to get certain things done. I think there needs to be benefits to citizens that are above and beyond. So I would agree with Kevin on that one. Citizens should take precedence and not have to pay.
I would, just since we're on it, I would agree with Kevin and Tori.
All right, Councilman Destin?
I take it that, Kevin, your idea is not to charge the residents? And I would agree with that. The $30 a year. And are we proposing to increase the daily launch fee? What is it now?
20. It's 20.
It's 20 now. There's only one other boat launch facility in the city of Destin. and it's next to us, Destin Marina. I walked over today and asked them, what are they charging? Well, they were charging $10. They went up to 20 last year. And so they said they would certainly appreciate it if we would charge 30. There'll be a traffic jam getting into their boat launch. Yeah, $30 is too much. It's above the commercial rate. And once again, we are trying to gouge some more money out of those poor dummies that come here for vacation.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I kind of see both sides. Crystal, I remembered what it was I wanted to ask you. We have a resolution or ordinance that was on the books, I think before I even got here, that our services would be self-sustaining. And I need you, prior to the next meeting, to find that, because I agree, probably too high. I also agree that, they ought to, $20 a year, okay? Because kids, my kids participated in the sports, basketball at the community center and other ball. So there's got to be some fairness in all of that, but it's got to pay for itself. And we're getting ready to do this massive project, and we're going to have all this parking. So I'm kind of leaning toward the $20 and $20, but I'll listen to what everybody. But yes, but it's $20 a year. I mean, people spend more than that on their.
All right. With that, any other discussion, or do we want to read the motion? Ray, are we all good with the motion? You want to hear this before we vote?
I'm not sure if there's an official
There's
motion.
not an official motion yet?
It was
Okay.
just a discussion right now.
I'll make the official motion. I move to direct that the Destin's residents' annual pass be reinstated at $20 a calendar year, and to increase the daily launch fee to $25 per launch, or leave it at 20? It's at 20 now, we're trying to.
Make
It's
your
your
motion.
motion.
Well, it won't go through. I'm trying to find out what's going to go through. And increase the daily launch fee to $25.
All right, I
Have
have
the city manager incorporate these changes into the schedule of fees.
Second.
motion and second. All right, call the vote. Uh-oh. Finally get to do something around here.
So you got what the cost is, right, Lance? Ray, you want to read what passed?
Motion passed 4-3 with the mayor's vote. Oh, I'm sorry. $20 per calendar year. Okay, let me read the whole thing. I move to direct the Destin residents' annual passes be reinstated at $20 per calendar year, and to increase the daily launch fees to $25, and that the city manager incorporate these changes into the schedule of fees.
All right, thank you.
Real quick, we had the conversation prior to me coming. I've talked to city manager, city attorney, yourself. I did receive a text. I have to leave.
All right,
I apologize.
relieved.
I apologize to the to the dais as well. Thank you all very much.
All right. No, now the favor's back in the council. Yeah, thank you for hanging around. All right, Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few quick announcements. City staff participated in a successful cleanup at the Destin History and Fishing Museum last week. Got a lot of work done. Appreciate the help of all the staff, but especially Public Works and the Parks and Rec Department for chipping in. But I think every single department was represented there, and I was very happy to see the involvement of the entire staff over there. So I would put a plug out. If you haven't been over to the museum recently, please grab a friend and go over there and see what they're doing over there. They're still doing some amazing things at the museum, and they could use the support. So next up, we've got our Parks and Rec Department is working with the Destin High School leadership class on a beach cleanup. That's coming up March the 7th. That's tomorrow at June White Decker. And I don't have a time. Lisa, can you tell me?
7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So if y'all want to help, I'm sure they would take the additional help at June White Decker Park tomorrow. The library is celebrating 20 years at their new location on Cybert Avenue. They will do that on March the 17th, that's Friday. And there's also activities each day of that week for the kiddos to take part in. Our Public Information Office is working with the mayor to collaborate on quarterly magazine columns that will help spread the word on various Destin subjects from safety and parking to inside stories showing local interest. And as you heard at the beginning of the meeting, this is National Flood Awareness Week, so we have a number of PSAs going out we've created and are sharing with the public on social media. And we have 2 new code compliance officers, and they are both now certified in parking authorities, so they can help us regulate the parking challenges in Destin. We have several positions filled since February the 1st to report on. We have a senior accountant hired, a new planner in the planning division, and an engineering assistant. Bless you. We also have a workshop on Harbor Docks on May the 4th here in the annex. And then finally, as part of the ongoing effort to rewrite and update the city's land development code, Community Development Department, in collaboration with all the other city departments, is pleased to announce that the first 2 draft articles of the new land development code are now available for public review. And the public can access these 2 draft articles through a link available on the city's website. So congratulations to Lewis and his crew for getting those first 2 done. Thanks for your effort.
Mayor?
Yeah, who can help me expand on the Harbor Docks workshop? Because it's not Harbor Docks, the restaurant, so.
It is the harbor capacity study workshop. As you know, we got the draft report that will be reviewed by the steering committee, and their recommendations will be sent to the city council, and then you'll have a workshop here before you finalize what you want to do as far as any new regulations or new policies.
And that is on the calendar, or you said we're just keeping people updated?
I'm sorry, it's on May the 4th.
Mayor, if I may,
please.
I had discussed with the city manager about putting an issue on his comments about the Okaloosa County is going forward with a project to improve their public safety communications. It entails putting a tower in Destin that is 230 feet tall. And they are kind of a hurry to try to get it done so that they can get the communication systems in place. And I suggested that we needed to put it on as soon as we could, perhaps next month for our approval and public hearing process. But I just want the citizens to know that that project is going forward, and it does entail a very tall tower. And I think it's near the Destin Water Users property over on Airport. Main Street, somewhere along there.
It's Main Street.
It's Main Street as you go down the
the industrial.
98, what is it, the Palms Boulevard there? Anyway, we will need to approve that, and we need to do it as expeditiously as we can, but I would like to have public comment. And so as soon as we can legally advertise that and get it done, I would ask the staff to put it on so we can go forward with the county on that issue.
I have a question on that. Are we allowed to have approval, once this goes on, of any other attachments that would go to this? Or once the tower's up, it's theirs and we have no say in additional, whatever would go around the tower? Because I know it's doing it for communication, but I don't know who owns the tower and what authorization they have to extend and expand what goes on it.
I would think all of that will be subject to the review we're going to go through.
All right, I just wanted to double check. All right, thank you.
That's all I have, sir.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you, Lance. All right, with that is public hearings, and being so, Kyle, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor. First, we have the second reading of ordinance number 2302CC, ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendments to the Code of Ordinances to prohibit smoking in city-owned public parks and city-owned public beaches, amending Chapter 15, Parks and Recreation, Section 15-38, Behavior of the Code of Ordinances, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
All right, seeing that this is a public hearing, at this time, I will accept any public comments at this time. So going from my right, anyone want to speak on this issue solely? Yes, sir. Do I need to ask you?
Captain Gary Jarvis, 804 Morris Street. You can apply what I'm about to say to both public hearings that are on tonight. We haven't built any new commercial docks or slips since I think Mr. Claude Perry did his, and it's being used basically for private boats only, transient slips. That was the agreement.
This is about smoking on the beaches.
Just smoking beaches.
Oh, I thought it was
this
the
is beach
first dock.
smoking.
Well,
No, that's the second.
And I look like fuel, and
5B.
Seeing while I'm up here, I support the no smoking in public places.
There you go, good
How
recovery.
about that?
Good recovery, good recovery.
Why you got me? You want to hear about the docks?
No, legally I can't. All right, Sandy.
Sandy Trammell, and I'm talking tonight as the Parks and Rec Chair, and we did hear this, and we did vote in favor of this.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, with that, anyone else here to public comment? Seeing none?
I move the City Council adopt ordinance 2302CC on second reading.
Second.
All right, with the first and second, I have a discussion from Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. And while I support non-smoking in the public parks, it is a habit that has no redeeming value at all. It feels to me like this is just a feel-good action, because after all, how are we going to enforce it? And how is it going to help public health? To help public health, we need to persuade people that they shouldn't smoke. Therefore, I would like to add a amendment, or if it's acceptable, that we authorize the city manager to have staff build appropriate signs that put the public on notice that there is no smoking. And also, the three young ladies that talked to us at the last meeting made a very sound argument against smoking. I would say that we need to put on the plaque also the bad public health risk, something like that's on even cigarette packs, but a little more appropriate, and refer the public to the state program, which we see advertised all the time, that helps people stop smoking. I feel we would actually be taking steps forward to try to make the issue better than just making ourselves feel good. So if that's acceptable.
Kyle,
That's acceptable.
Does that work in the second reading?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just kind of an add-on to the
Yeah, just
motion,
more of a
so
publicity,
I think it's
PR
fine. It's not part of the ordinance, it's just an additional action, is how I take it.
Now, just a discussion on this, that might be part of the ordinance, so, stop me if we don't need to go back. Is there a fine structure? Is there something that code can do or our sheriff's department can do? Because part of this was being uniformed with the county so that every sheriff knows, hey, there's no smoking on any beach. Can we do anything at a city level, or is that like we have to report it to the sheriff's department for something like that?
We've been dealing with similar issues to this for a long time in public parks. And what staff can do is go and request that the individual stop doing what they're doing. And honestly, 95+% of the people do when you ask them. But there is 5% that don't. And at that point, it becomes, anyway, long story short, it becomes an issue of trespassing. And at that point, we could call the sheriff and have them escort them off.
All right, thank you. All right.
So Dewey, to your point though, I think it would probably be better to sever that motion and let's make your motion after the ordinance is.
To do a campaign? All right, so scratching the, so with that, we're going to vote on the current motion. The original. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, what are we going to do about that, Ray? Seeing the magic. All right, locked in. Ayes have it, so moved. There we go.
Make a motion directing the city manager to have staff erect signs that say that smoking is not allowed at the beach and reiterate the public health risks from smoking and direct them to the stop smoking program the state of Florida has in place now.
All right, with that, do I have a second? Second. All right, discussion, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, Kyle, take it away.
Yep, next we have the first reading of ordinance number 2303CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, regulating city cemeteries, providing for authority, providing for modifying City Code Section 7-21 definitions, Section 7-23 burial plots and mausoleum niches, and Section 7-28 tombstones, monuments, and markers, providing for incorporation into the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Seeing that this is a public hearing, anyone here that wishes to speak on this topic solely, please come up, and I'm going to go with my right on the over. All right, seeing none, closing the public comments. At this point, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of ordinance 2303CC on first reading and direct staff to advertise for second reading.
I have a motion on the table. Do I hear a second? Seconded. Discussion. Councilman Schmidt?
The effect on the budget where it says an estimated annual maintenance cost increase of approximately $6,000. This would be solely if we put upright things there, right? Just by making the change, we're not going to increase by $6,000, right? I mean, how did we get to that number, whoever calculated that? If every single one of the plots were to be upright?
That is correct.
Okay, so just approving this, though, so there's only an effect on the budget if all of them were upright tomorrow.
No, it wouldn't have to be all of them, because if you start mowing around, you're gonna have to mow around. I mean, you know, there's probably some number where it's at 6,000, but one is gonna increase your cost. I don't know what the incremental cost of one, because you're gonna have to edge around that, mow around that,
I was just
or
asking
whatever.
based on that.
Yeah, so I think that was just their best. My question is, where are we on increasing the cemetery plots once we do this?
So just to confirm, there's not a $6,000 increase on our budget then, before we go on, if you don't mind.
Well, we don't know because we don't know how many people are gonna have tombstones above ground.
I think the best way to classify it would be estimated maintenance
Yeah,
costs.
estimated maintenance cost is gonna be not to exceed probably $6,000 the first year is the way I understood it, but it really depends. If everybody wants a tombstone above ground, we'll probably get to $6,000 pretty quick.
And Jim, to answer your question, we're going to bring back the resolution that sets the fees at the next meeting. We thought it was more
Okay.
appropriate on second reading.
Okay.
So y'all can consider offsetting these increased costs here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you have to say that on the record. All right. All right, so do we have the motion on the table? All right, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Take it away.
All right. Next, we have a quasi-judicial hearing. This is David Campbell of Civil Engineering, Inc., on behalf of Valiant Investment LLC, requesting conditional use 2264CU. This project includes the construction of an 8-unit long-term multifamily attached townhome development and associated site infrastructure. Subject property is located at 807 and 809 Airport Road, totaling approximately 0.84 acres. At this time, if any member of staff who plans on testifying, please stand and raise your right hand. The applicant and any member on your team who plans on testifying, stand and raise your right hand. Any member of the public who plans on testifying, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thank you all. With that, let me start with Kevin and again see if there's been any ex parte communications, and we'll just go down the line.
I have had none. None.
None.
None.
None.
None.
All right, and with that, I'll send it down to Kim.
Thanks. I'm going to enter the staff report and all the attachments into the record as city's composite exhibit A.
And David, do you have any objection to that entering into the record? All right, thanks.
And we're just going to go ahead and let the applicant make his presentation, and then if you have any questions for staff, we'll be here to answer.
Mayor, City Council.
Name and address and take it away.
All right. This is a project on Airport Road. It's across from the Porsche dealership. It's an 8-unit townhome.
Can I get your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Public record.
David Campbell, 8729 North Lagoon Drive, Panama City Beach.
Thank you.
Okay. It's an 8-unit townhome complex, long-term rental. We're seeking a conditional use it's an ROI VR zoning district, so it's compatible with the neighborhood. It's actually one of the residential lots from Kellair, and this is, we're proposing a residential use. Your planning board approved this unanimously. And with that, I'll do my best to answer any questions for you.
All right, thank you. With that, any discussion? Yeah, all right. Thank you, sir. Anyone from the public? At this point, we'll have public comments. Going over here. She tripped me out. All right, closing the public comments. At this time, I'll entertain a motion or discussion.
Recommended motion, I move that the city council approve the conditional use 2264 CU.
Second.
Motion is second. Open for discussion. Councilman Schmidt?
I appreciate it. This might be for Mr. Campbell, so I'm sorry if you have to come back up, but how does the trash receptacles work for this project?
They're going to be individual pickup. The site was designed in such a manner that the truck can pull in and pick up the containers, back up, do a T-turn, and pull out.
So the truck will actually pull in
Yes,
of airport, so they won't be putting them on
will
airport
not.
road then?
They will be out front of each unit.
Okay, that's great to hear. That was the only question I couldn't tell, so thank you.
You're welcome. Can I say one other thing?
Please.
I haven't submitted plans in quite a few years, and this was the first time I've done it, probably in about 13 years. And your process was very easy. Mr. Zunguzzi's group was a pleasure to work with. Daniel was a pleasure to work with, specifically. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, staff. Thank you.
All right. Buttering us up before the vote. All right, does any discussions on the dais here? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. All right. For the showstopper, Kyle, take it away.
All right, next we've got item 5D. This is another quasi-judicial hearing. We have John Green of ECM on behalf of Pelican Adventures, Inc., requesting approval of a major deviation to a major development order in a commercial marina at 546, 580, and 600 Harbor Boulevard, with additional off-site parking to be located at 106 Benning Drive. The project proposes to expand the existing docks and construct parking areas to support a water sports business. And with that, Mr. Green, if you could raise your right hand, any member of your team that you plan on having testify with you, raise your right hand, and say staff, stand and raise your right hand, and any member of the public that plans on testifying, you can stand and raise your right hand. Just stand up. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thank you, guys. With that, again, start with Kevin to see if there's been any ex parte communication.
No, none here.
None for me.
None.
None.
I haven't had any communications.
And with that, go down to Kim.
We're going to enter into the record the city's staff report and all attachments as city's composite exhibit A.
And John, do you have any objection to that? No objection.
Okay, we'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicant for his presentation, and staff will be available for questions.
Thank you. Take it away. Name and address.
John Green, ECM, located at 4476 Legendary Drive, Unit 201, Destin. The Pelican Adventures currently operates at the end of Benning and Harbor Boulevard. They do rental of, take charters out, they do parasailing and scuba diving. And they will continue to do that. The project involves adding a parking lot at Harbor Boulevard, which provides 23 parking spots, and then another 52 parking spots on Benning. There'll be some reconfiguration of the docks, but they have 10, and they're going to go back to 10. It just increases the width so that they can get different sized boats into the slips. That's all I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, being that this is a public hearing at this time, I will accept any public comments, starting from my left. Seeing none. Anyone in the middle? Yes, sir.
Jim, real quick, since you stepped out, I just want to know if you had any ex parte communications.
No.
Gary, you can go.
Captain Gary Jarvis, 804 Marsh Street. There has been a lot of commercial docks built and/or repaired in quite some time on the harbor. In this particular case, they're not increasing their slips, they're just upgrading their facilities. They've already been in operation, and it's an imperative. The good news in this project is they've invested. They're kind of new to the game, unlike myself or Dewey, but ever since they've come to Destin, they've run really good professional business. They've always been real upfront and transparent in the things they're doing. The thing I like about it now is with the property that they've been running out of, with their acquisition of that property on Benning Drive and having parking, they're one of the few businesses on the harbor, there's another one coming up, that's actually trying to take care of parking first. And so I think the council really ought to approve this project.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else from the? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments. Entertain a motion at this time.
I move that City Council approve Pelican Adventures, a major deviation to a major development order, and a commercial marina as presented.
Second.
Second, open for discussion. Councilman Schmidt.
Sure, I was just going to echo Mayor Jarvis and thank them for doing what they're doing. I had a lot of memories of the building that you demolished growing up as a kid, but, you know, I appreciate what y'all are doing as business owners and finding other areas to provide parking and everything like that. I wish you could just bring a little food truck the other end or something back down in the beer garden, put it back on your property, but, okay, well, good, but, well, great, but no, and selling south was a lot of memories as well, so there's a lot of history there, so I appreciate what you guys are doing to keep the heritage there and continue going the right direction. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Abear.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo exactly what Councilman Schmidt just said. You guys have done a great job of taking out some buildings that needed to be removed and putting in some really nice upgrades. And it's nice when we can keep the businesses here and you're continuing to better your business and make it easier also for your customers, especially with the parking. So we appreciate that, especially here on the dais, because that's always the issue is, do you have parking for the customers you're going to entertain? So thank you for what you're doing.
My last echo would just be kind of for staff and us as they improve around them. I'm excited to see what we can do with the roundabout and, you know, our right of way around that area for public safety and just aesthetically pleasing streetscapes. So as they improve, I'm hoping and encouraging our staff to file suit on Mountain Drive. Thank you. With that, if I see no other discussions, we'll call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. All right, I'm going to ask the council at this moment, do we need a break? Everyone good? Chugging right along? Let's keep on going. All right. Go ahead if you need to, but let's go, Kyle.
All right, last, we have a quasi-judicial hearing. This is item 5E. Michael Dombrowski of MRD Associates, Inc., on behalf of ABC Amusement Co., is requesting approval of a commercial marina application at 530 Harbor Boulevard. The project proposes to construct 4,353 square foot, 17-slip wooden dock to the east of the existing 20-slip Gilligan's docking facility. Approximately 36 timber mooring pilings will be installed within the slips. At this time, if any member of staff that plans on testifying, could please stand and raise your right hand. Steve, I think it's the last time today I'm going to swear you in. And Mike and your team, if you could stand and raise your right hand. Any member of the public that plans on testifying, please stand and raise your right hand. Give y'all a second to figure out. Just go ahead and stand up and raise your right hand, just in case y'all wanna testify here. I see some confusion there, so do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thanks, y'all.
I have had communications with a lot of people about this, but nothing that will affect any of my decisions tonight.
Same with me.
I have nothing that'll affect my decision.
Same here, none.
I'll echo that. I haven't had a whole lot of people, though.
No communication.
That will go down to Kim.
Hey, we're going to enter into the record the city's staff report and all attachments as city's composite exhibit A.
And any objection to that, enter into the record? All right, it's so entered.
We'll turn it over to the applicant.
First and last name and address, and it's all yours.
Thank you. Mike Dombrowski with MRD Associates, 543 Harbor Boulevard in Destin. What we're asking for is approval of a commercial marina located at the existing Gilligan's Marina. To the east is Harbor Docks. To the west is an existing 20-slip marina that is part of Gilligan's. That was built in 2010. And again, it was a 20-slip. We're asking for 17 additional for a total of 37 boat slips. That's the maximum that we can have at that location. We did go for a variance to the Board of Adjustment about 2 weeks ago, and it was approved at a vote of 5-0, that the request was to translate that dock out about 63 feet from what the existing 200-foot maximum is. And the reason being is that we have shallow waters along the shoreline. And in order to maximize the number of boat slips underneath the Land Development Code, we were allowed and we met the criteria in terms of translating that the boat slips out that 63 feet. The only other ones that I remember within the harbor that did get a variance was Marbella back in around 2000. Looking around the harbor, it's very limited of where you can get that Board of Adjustment, be able to translate that more than the 200 feet. Let's see, in terms of safety and navigation, one of the conditions for that marina through the Board of Adjustment was white navigation lights at the end. One of the things that does too is by translating that further out, it kind of forces boat traffic more towards the middle of the harbor itself. We do meet the 20% rule, not only with the city of Destin, but within for DEP and the Corps. Those permits are under review by both DEP and the Corps. We're at the very end of those. We should be receiving permits through those two agencies within the next 3 months or so. The only thing that I would like to add at the end is that this is a working harbor, and this marina is not going to have pontoon boats or jet skis. That 15 out of the 17 boat slips that we've been contacted by charter boats, and so that it's going to be more of a commercial marina than residential. So those 15 out of the 17 will go towards charter boats, smaller types of charters, not anything large, such as Southern Star or some of the larger livery type boats. So that's it, and I'm certainly available for questions.
All right, thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to open it up for public comments.
Certainly.
All right, might as well, yes, sir.
Public comment?
Name, address, and it's all yours.
I am Glenn Shelley. I live at 642 Harbor Boulevard, Destin, Florida. I'm actually in the commercial zone since the comp plan changed a few years ago. Everything east of Ship's Chandler is now in that zone, which I'm in the same zone as him, but I do have a single-family home there. A few things I'd like to understand here is, am I correct that y'all already approved a marina on the south side at the east end of Norego? Am I totally off? How far does that structure come north into the harbor?
I don't think we can say.
I don't know. Kim, do we have that information that we can share?
I can't tell at the top of my head right now. That's no.
Well, it's a substantial marina. How many boats are going there?
50-something, right? 50-something?
I mean, this is all about this because
So the one that you're talking about is a residential marina. It's not a
for-
commercial marina.
It's not commercial, it's for
It's for a
condominium?
condominium, and I
Okay,
believe
but
it
it
has
is-
about 55 boat slips for residential use only.
Okay. And then a couple other things. Isn't the city in the middle of an harbor activity study?
Yeah.
So wouldn't any new construction change that study? Because it's not existing now under the study. So why would you approve something in the middle of an activity study that's going to increase activity so you flaw your own study? So, I mean, first of all, I would say that you table this until the study is complete. And then they may say you don't need any, or you shouldn't have any. Why would we do a study and allow things to happen this big while the study's going on that you're paying for? 266 feet is almost a football field out into the harbor. It's is it 266, I believe, or 260? Is that right? So it's pretty far south into the harbor. It's going to create a lot of boats that leave harbor docks, let's say, and they're going to have to go out and around, which is it's just, to me, the navigation of the harbor is already getting a little tight, certainly more tight at Grand Harbor and, at the entrance to the harbor, it's very tight. But we're pushing this thing tighter and tighter. Everyone down that side that has the same lineage could build a 266-foot dock. Harbor docks could build a 266-foot dock. There's homes down there that could be sold and turned into commercial marinas and build a 266-foot dock. So I just see that there's, not that it is a precedent, but it seems that it might be a precedent. If you allow his, you're going to have to allow the next guy. Now, does that change your activity study even more? So when is the activity study due to be complete?
We got the draft final report this week, and then it's going to go to some committees, and it'll be back to us the next weeks or month or so. So it's very
Well, he
soon,
said-
sir.
I believe Mr. Dombrowski said that his DEP permits wouldn't be in for like 90 days or something. I don't know if the activity study will be done by then, but it seems like to me that you would table this. I'm not asking you to turn it down as such, even though I would. I would say at least table it, and we'll talk about it again after the activity study.
All right, thank you.
So that's it, thank you.
All right, please hold your applause. Next up. Name and address.
Good evening. I'm Randy Taylor. I live at 508 Harbor Boulevard. I am an owner at the Destin Harbor Place, and I'm also president of the Homeowners Association. I've been to the last two meetings, the Harbor and Waterways and the variance meeting this past Monday or last week, and now I'm here. I've heard, and my concern for our building, Destin Harbor Place, which is right next door to Gilligan's, is all the activity, the boating and everything else going on. We have a marina, we have a 12-unit building, and we've had lots of issues of coming and going for our own boating needs, having to wait out in the harbor for the density and the craziness that's going on to coming and going with their wave runners. But the point I'm going to try to make is the last two meetings, I've heard that, and I respect that it is a commercial harbor. I really do. I respect everything about it. I've grown up in Destin. I've had everything to do with the restaurant business on the harbor to working and fishing and enjoying all the things that Destin has to offer. I am now a resident and have been a resident on the harbor for 10 years, and I haven't heard a single thing in these meetings about the residential community on the harbor. And that's important. People live on the harbor, they pay their taxes to live there, and they want to have the lifestyle of the harbor. And it's being taken away because of the congestion and everything else that goes around. I can't tell you how many times during the day I'm doing something and all of a sudden the horns start blowing and they're carousing dolphins out in the harbor, and it just it's just every day for the next 15 to 20 weeks. That'll go on. I do respect the commercial business, but I think there's an importance in the residential community too, on the north and the south side of the harbor. I think a lot of this is driven by the commercial business on the north side, and I'm here speaking up for my residential community as well as the residents. I think before you make a decision to make this 266-foot dock, which I think is going to just open up Pandora's box to everybody else in the harbor to do the same thing. Next thing you know, we're just going to have a channel. Where are you going to do your boat parade? Those kind of things. It's just going to get smaller and smaller. I see that, and I hope it doesn't. That's why I've started this. You may have seen this and I did this out of concern and just to get people's opinions, and I've got about 1,500 members. I started this 30 days ago, already 1,500. They're constantly writing me messages, supporting me for doing this. And I see that number of people that are concerned about their harbor, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
You said issue a 260-something foot dock. Would you have an issue if he built a 200-foot dock that he's allowed to build?
I wouldn't.
Huh?
I wouldn't. If
You
you
wouldn't?
stayed with the ordinance of 20% of the width of the harbor, I would not have
Gotcha.
a problem.
Okay,
I
thanks.
think that would be fine. 266 is just a little too
Appreciate
far.
it.
I think that's going to start a wall of docks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Yep.
No, I'm just an advocate. I'm not giving testimony, I'm giving public comment, so I don't have to swear in. Captain Gary Jarvis, 804 Marsh Street. No one's going to applaud for me when I get done. This dock is sorely needed, the additional slips, a lot of there's really a difficult, we've already had the issues at Joe's Bio. There's a lot of state licensed guides and some federally permitted guides that got 25 to 35 foot center consoles. And the reason they're having issues at Joe's Bio and unloading, they're trying to make a living with no place to actually run their business. So the additional dockage, if it's going to fishing vessels, I highly support. Our heritage in Destin is the charter and commercial fishing fleet. All the development, even residential on the harbor, that's not where we got started. We got started in the fishing business, and that's our heritage. We don't have a historical society. We don't have a historical, area with fine buildings built at the turn of the century, but our heritage is older than all of that. So I support anything that's going to bring commerce on the harbor for our charter fishing fleet. And that being said, one of the things that I do have concerns about, especially approving any commercial dock, is we need to get that moratorium on livery vessels permanent, so there's no speculation. I've seen some of the social media, they're going to put more pontoon boats in there, so we can nip that one in the bud really quick. Number two is we need to take a good hard look, what is a 6-passenger boat? Because the new trend to get around the livery vessel moratorium, temporary or permanent, I hope we make it permanent, is they're taking pontoon boats with a captain on it, taking 6 people. And that could fill those 17 slips if this council's not privy to that idea. The other thing is the tiki huts, and even some bareboat charters. So I don't know in this particular ordinance that it is, but that's a policy that I really, especially when you take up the moratorium, is a clear definition of what we consider livery vessels and charter boats, because it's important to our heritage and important to our fleet that there's some direction given there. And like the man said, they've had inquiries from guys. I believe him because I know I get calls to this very day of people say, what should I do? Where can I run? You know, some of the guys have tried Fort Walton Beach. That 30-minute run on some of those boats, it doesn't work for them in the business model. So you guys are in charge of Destin, the luckiest fishing village in the world. So I think this commercial dock's well needed. There hasn't been any new ones since about 2010. And so I completely support it, Kevin.
Yep, go ahead.
Without I respect your expertise and everything. Without a guarantee of what specific types of vessels that would be operating at this commercial place, how can you say I'm supporting of it because it's going to be for charter boats? That's not a guarantee, not in writing. It's not exactly what it will or will not be used for. So how do you?
I know the owner
you
of
know
that
what I mean?
property.
Right.
He's already done
Okay.
his thing. He built the property on Mountain Drive to provide additional off-site parking. He's invested in his
Right.
community. I coach his son in Little League. You know, when he tells me that's what he's going to do with it, at some point, this council, myself as a person, you have to accept what his intent is.
Mm-hmm.
He lives here. He's part of this community. So I take him for his word. His representative repeated what we've already heard him say on the public record, even when he was building the parking area.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, I have a question too for you, Gary. When you're looking at the design, you've got the first that's part of, that matches where his, you know, the end would be. Then he's got the 4 slips that are outside the offset. If we didn't approve that, a variance of those 4 that were out into the harbor and approved, I mean, is there a size that has to be part of this project, size slips, to make it where it is all fishing charters? Or, I mean, I know that he's got in this offset, but the offset's what really puts it out there into the middle of the harbor.
Well, Dewey and Johnny spent a lot of time on the water, on the harbor. I dock, I'm running my charter boat now out of the ship's chandler. And when I pull out of my dock, if you were to take a straight line to get around Sandestin Yacht Club, that 260-foot dock's still going to be inside that line. I'm not going to have to, even with the 4 slips, if you leave from my dock, which is that very pinch point, you know, not far from where the Gilligan's properties run, you don't have to drive out around there. So from the navigational standpoint, it's not going to create a navigation hazard. It's well within the channels. The deep water at that end of the harbor is already on the south side anyways. The only people that cruise along the coast are people going to harbor docks or just cruising to see what's going on in the harbor. But from an operational standpoint and the actual aesthetic and how you look when you look at the harbor, the extra length is not going to have a negative effect visually or in actual operation coming from that end. Most of the boats that come out of Sandpiper Cove in Marabella, they stay on the south side. They go along the south side all the way out anyways. The only people, like I said, that go north are the ones that are just cruising just to see what's going on the harbor side.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right, thank you.
All right. Anyone else on this side? You can't go again, but anyone new I can accept. Name and address, and it's all yours.
All right, I had a question. I don't own.
It's name and address either way, sorry.
Oh, okay, so 25 Laurie Drive, Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
Perfect.
Kenneth E. Haynes.
Okay, thank you.
I've been coming to Destin since 1994. My family had a condo at St. Martin's Beach Walk Villas, so, you know, every year we come down on vacation, so I've experienced it from, you know, that point to now. And in 2006, I moved down here as a full-time resident, and I lived here until 2015, until I bought in Fort Walton Beach. So, and I do a lot of business in Destin. So, my concern is the ordinance, just the law itself. So, I mean, if you go and you give him, this variance, then, and then when you're not giving it to other people, it's just like the fairness of the whole thing. And then also, that must be in place for a reason, that distance from side to side. And yes, the harbor is very congested. I mean, I get out on the water all the time, and peak season, it's just, it's crazy out there. I mean, I don't even like to be out there in the peak season having fun, because it's more dangerous to me than having fun. So that's just kind of where I wanted to go with that. And just the environmental issues with the study that's being done, maybe just even holding this off or something like that, just until you get those impact studies done, just to kind of really see what's happening, until like a project of that vastness that could affect different things, environmentally, to people, to anything, trying to get around something of that distance. It just concerns me. And I want to continue to frequent Destin. I love Destin. I'm here like probably every day. I do have some storage units over here for my business. But I really do love the area. And like I said, I've been coming here for over 30 years. So it's kind of my second home, and I don't even go home anymore, because I just love the area so much. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Oh, yes, sir.
Captain Christian Myers, 539 Kelly Street. I have a charter boat down there on the harbor. Been running it for a few years. With the exception of the time I spent in school, I've grown up and worked and lived on that harbor, like most of you guys. My biggest obstacle when I started my business was slippage. Not only is it hard to find, but there are often years of waiting to get one. And then they're also very expensive, pricing out a lot of the guys who are starting businesses like me. I'll keep it short. I'm in support of a commercial dock like this. I like to see more safety prevention, like fuel spillage, things like that on the dock. I like to see stuff like that. That's a side note. That is the widest part of the harbor. That dock, like Mr. Driver said, wouldn't be in the way of the navigation. It's not a hazard. We've already reached the maximum amount of livery vessels that we can have, right? There aren't any more medallions for sale. So then there's no more risk of any more livery pontoons. Now, there are what do they call them? What he was saying was the six-pack pontoon vessels that are not livery and also don't have captains. That's a whole other thing. I think that's being addressed on the side. So that's something to be considered. But I would like to see more slippage. I would like to see more docks and available for business guys like myself. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christian. All right, anyone else? In the back, nothing? All right, I will officially close public comments, and at this time, entertain a motion from the council. Kim, you want to take this?
Is there a question?
Do we, lack of a first? Is that a thing?
Somebody needs to make a motion.
Yeah, we have to vote on this.
Got to vote it up or down, or tie, and then
All
it's
right,
going to be up to
Councilman
Bobby.
Destin?
There were a number of questions that were raised on the issue of tabling it. On what legal authority would do that? They say they're 3 months, I guess, from having their final approval. I noticed that we have approved dock structures in the past on contingency that the approval come through. Tell us what authority do we have to table?
Well, since we're going to get into the legalities of it, I'll say a couple of things, okay? One is, the Board of Adjustment approved the variance for the length. You all are not the appellate authority of the Board of Adjustment. Actually, it's the Circuit Court. So there's a 30-day appeal period to Circuit Court. It's not to the City Council, so you're not undoing, what the Board of Adjustment already did. The only thing that you should legally be looking at is section 110501, which is the Marina siting standards. And so I would say if you look through those standards, the one that might deal with length is T, which was discussed at the Harbor Board, where they talk about no dock shall unreasonably interfere with the riparian rights of others. So if you feel that there's an unreasonable interference, you could deny it on that ground. If you feel that there's not an unreasonable interference, it should be approved. And then with respect to tabling it, I mean, the applicant deserves a vote. Either way, if there was a justification to table it, you could do that. But, you know, as far as I know, this council considered a moratorium on docks and did not take that action, so they have the right to apply for the dock.
Councilman Schmidt? Okay. All right, with that, Bagby, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, and this is really hard because you're one of the guys that does it right. You really are. And I want to support you, you know, and we can talk about wherever he went, environmental, and, you know, you got 65-foot boats and we don't, you know, where are we going to pump them out? And they're going to be coming. That's not my issue. My issue is I do believe that it negatively impacts the riparian rights of the other people in the harbor. And so I'm going to make a motion at this time to not approve based on, and I think it's 1105.00, not 01, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
It's 110501T.
T, what? Is it 00T or 01T?
01.
Okay, 01T. Ah, yeah, okay. Based on that, I will make a motion to disapprove it.
All right, with the motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, discussion, Johnny?
Yeah, so that's my concern as well. I mean, I'm all for having more places for commercial guys to dock boats. I think that's very evident if you listen to any meetings that I've been involved in for the fishing fleet, or the fishing community, rather. You know, I've been, like Mayor Jarvis said, I've been on that shoreline hundreds of times. And if you look, I mean, I'm looking at a map, and if you look at my fear is just this. If you look at an aerial map, there's three pontoon boats parked on that shore on this map. That shoreline didn't erode on its own. I mean, it has gotten progressively worse, more and more shallow over the last 30 years that I've been going back there, and specifically riding the shoreline looking for flounders. So I'm very, very familiar with this piece of property. I would approve a 200-foot dock. I think that the actions of the owner is what caused that shallow, you know, the shallow nature of that property. And I think that if you want to do as many slips as you have, I think there should be a dredge permit involved. And maybe I'm wrong for saying that, but that's just where my mind goes with it.
You have something? Okay, no. Kevin?
The Army Corps and DEP, as I understand it, would not allow any slips in that area, as there has to, you know, in the shoaling area, the shallow area, because there needs to be a 1-foot clearance between the bottom of the vessel and the bottom of the water, AKA the sand. So there would have to be, I believe, a dredge to get that much space. Whether they would approve that, I don't know.
All right, thank you. Kevin?
Sure, I got a few questions. Whether they would approve it, we don't know. they would do, right, but can they dredge or can they not dredge? Do we know that answer?
As far as I understand, DEP and Army Corps of Engineers do not generally approve dredge permits when variances like this are allowed due to the fact that dredging highly disturbs environmental sensitivity in sensitive areas. That is my understanding of situations such as
So
this.
generally do not, and it's your understanding, but specifically, can he dredge this property? Can we answer that, or can he answer that?
The
or-
city doesn't approve dredging, so
Okay.
I
That's
could not
fine.
answer that.
Okay.
And this is to my point, there's a 200-foot maximum for a reason. The Board of Adjustments, the Army Corps of Engineers, they're not taking into account what the daily boaters in this area are doing. And I think that the point of, and we've taken it very lightly of our harbor capacity study of late, and we talk about it all the time, but very rarely do we make any decisions based on those findings. So I would lean that way right this second.
All right, Councilman Destin?
I'm sorry, I apologize, but I still have a list of questions if I could, and get the answer for that first question, if you don't mind.
Yep.
The first question was, can you dredge? And if not, I'm curious why.
Yeah, so when, we usually have pre-application meetings with the Corps and DEP, and that's always one of the items that we bring up. And one of the things that they look at is, are there ways of minimizing or not dredging? And one of the options that we discussed is that there is the ability within the Board of Adjustments of translating that boat dock out. So that was one of the things that they would say, well, you have an option to maximize the number of boat slips that's allowed underneath the City of Destin Land Development Code. So their approach would be that we would not have justification for a dredging permit, especially in that location that the the harbor is over 1,300 feet wide. You know, what we have on the opposite side of it is Sun King with this 265 feet. It roughly is about 460 feet or so out of that 13. We have more than 900 feet across the harbor of clear area for boats to navigate. And you talk about how far it extends. Well, these lights are about 10 foot. Basically, you're looking at between here and the wall that we would be extending further out into the harbor than that 200 feet.
So, because I don't know the process, that's what the DEP and the other agencies you said prefers. So can you actually apply, though, to do a dredge? I mean,
Certainly, you could apply for.
They probably
anything.
would, deny it, I guess, because of the variance opportunity that you have?
Again, with the Corps and DEP, there is a justification and a need and purpose and need. And when you would say, and they would also look at other alternatives, is what can you do to get those boat slips, and is there other options available to you?
Okay.
And they would deny it based on that.
Okay. Thank you. Kim or Steve, or maybe even you, sir, I apologize, so maybe, who has officially said that there's not 1 foot of clearance in there to now do this variance request?
Well, we looked at the general criteria in the industry is taking a look at either the 3 or 4 foot contour. So that's basically the water depth that you have at that location. Even the smallest of boats, a center console, is going to draw 2.5 feet, 3 feet in some instances. So that is the clear area that was mentioned, is the distance between the deepest part of your boat and the top of the sea floor bottom.
So who is it, though, that went out there, that measured with these little blue lines that we have on our design here? Who is it that said this is where that point starts from?
We
You know what
had
I'm
it,
saying?
we had it surveyed by Guston, Cothran, and Tucker. So we have an actual survey that was conducted. We've also gone out there and said, you could obviously see that it's only about 3 foot deep at the most.
I appreciate that, but I'd rather fall back on, you got the survey, and the survey is what's measuring the depth as well as the distances?
The survey shows what the elevation is referenced to a datum. And so that is the water depth at that location. We had taken that data and looked at where that 3 foot contour line is, measured it from our shoreline, and came up with roughly about 65 feet.
Okay, thank you. For staff, we heard some people talk about the precedents or what could happen next. I mean, I assume every case is new and different, right? So giving them ability to build 266 feet does not mean his neighbor or 2 doors down or 3 doors down gets 266 feet.
No,
You'd
that's
be
correct.
reviewing it at that time based upon the width of their
Yeah,
certain
you
things,
have
right?
code criteria that you're going to review for each individual property. So granting, first of all, a variance is very unique and is unique to the specific property. And then the marina siting criteria are also going to be applied to the specific property. So there's not a precedent.
Okay. And the riparian rights, was this an option back when we did the point mezzanine, or is that a different type of request that we wouldn't have been able to use that option?
This same criteria applies to all docks in the city under 110501.
Gotcha. I I have been talking about the harbor capacity study quite a lot and expressed a lot of frustration about it. So it's very important to me. I was also the one that tried to limit who could build docks a while back ago, and I didn't get support, I think, as Ms. Kopp just said. So I get the concern. I get the worry about adding more if our capacity study is not done. That's the whole point of the capacity study. It just doesn't make sense to keep approving these things. I just don't understand. So you said that we're not the appellate for the variance, so we're not able to say you can only do 200. We do not have that authority to say build 200 only, because he's gotten approval from another board to go 260.
You've got two separate processes. The variance process was approved by the Board of Adjustment. They're the final authority. An
Right.
appeal of the Board of Adjustment is to circuit court, so you can't take away the variance.
Right, so we would not
But
be able to say-
you now have the marine construction permit, which has another and totally different section of the code with different criteria. So you can look at riparian rights, and if they're unreasonably affected. You could determine that they are or that they're not based on the evidence.
Yeah. I guess the only other couple questions or comments I'll add, and I went out there to see it, in person. I'm not captain of a sailboat. I might be getting a pontoon boat one day. It's a big harbor out there. I've heard complaints about the traffic in the harbor. Yes, there's traffic in the harbor because there's not like lanes like on a road. I mean, I guess we have a channel, so sure, the big vessels are going through the channel, I guess the captain would say. But all the little vessels and the wave runners and pontoon boats are all over the harbor. I get that. So sure, would that affect those random operators? Sure, it would, but not necessarily any more than half the other docks that are already built out there. But I'll still fall back to the issue of we've spent a lot of the citizens' money and other people's money and grant money on a harbor capacity study to tell us what we shouldn't be doing in that harbor. And I'm not ready to add anything until we have more documents on what's going on in that harbor, is my thoughts. So I'm not saying I don't want him to build this, but just like I said voting against the point mezzanine, I don't want to build it today until we have the facts about the harbor capacity study. That's my thoughts.
All right, thank you.
I would go back to the applicant.
Yeah, at this point, do you have anything for him before we move on?
I would like to ask a few things. Is there a moratorium on docks in Destin Harbor? Okay. Second thing is, in terms of riparian rights, we're not talking about impeding on riparian rights. Riparian rights are the extension of the property lines east and west. So we have an existing dock of Gilligan's that's in between what we're proposing and Destin Harbor Place. And also our other riparian rights line is Harbor Docks, which they have not expressed any impeding or opposition to this, just for the record on that. Again, I'm actually on the board of that study, and I don't see anything in there so far that's going to say you are only going to be able to have so many boat slips, or where are they going to be? So, again, that study in terms of giving the city some type of guidance that we can only have 1,000 boat slips, I don't think you're going to get it. So anyways, those were the questions I had.
Good. All right, Councilman Destin.
And I want to clarify on the riparian rights issue. In what manner do we impair on does the dock cause a problem with the riparian rights of the neighbors? Do we have any details?
You're asking me, I'm not making that that factual determination. I'm reading you the code. So
Okay,
I don't know if staff has information on that.
If the staff has, I'd like to hear it, because we are in fact making that factual decision tonight. Staff, any
Staff
comments?
does not have a determination on that.
All right. The other question on a different issue is, are we allowed to tell them what kind of boats they can have in the slips? I know we're talking about these are going to be commercial, but can we prohibit library vessels? I think we discussed that on an application over on Calhoun Avenue not long ago, and they voluntarily acceded to that, if my memory serves me.
There's nothing in the code right now that provides for that. If the applicant wants to volunteer that, that's up to them, but we do not have that in any of their approvals. There's no restriction right now.
Yep. And as sympathetic as I am to piling more and more and more slips into the harbor, not being a good thing, I just cannot figure out how it is that this applicant is not following the letter of the law.
And I'll add, the Board of Adjustment did put one condition on the variance related to the types of vessels, but I didn't bring it up because it's really a request more than a demand, so to speak. But the condition was that the applicant shall encourage but not require the prioritization of private yachts or vessels in slips E8 through E11 as identified on the marine plan. So for what that's worth.
Would the applicant allow that to be put into it?
All right, Mike, name and address.
Mike Abity, 530 Harbor Boulevard. Question, sir?
The question was, like a dock that we had an application for over on Calhoun, they voluntarily put into the permit that they would not put livery vessels and that they would attempt to have commercial boats, small charter boats in their marina rather than livery vessels?
Well, let me put it, excuse the way I'm going to frame this, but do you think the Publix supermarket that's building a new Publix in Destin, do you think they would rent their next door space to Winn-Dixie?
I take that as a no.
I'm in the livery vessel business.
Yes, you are.
20 of my current slips are for livery vessels. I have no intent to rent to livery vessels. I would like to keep my options open to where, and we all know that in the near future, this livery vessel moratorium is going to be permanent. So there's not much room for, number one, a livery vessel operator can't get a permit from the city. So they're not going to be coming trying to rent slips from me, and I'm not interested in renting slips to other livery vessels. I've been approached by two people who have bareboat charters, and they didn't know they were considered livery vessels, and I told them, no, I would not be able to lease to them because they would not be able to get a permit from the city. So I've already turned them down. I've been approached I have verbal commitments for 15 of my slips. They're all for U.S. Coast Guard licensed captained vessels, okay? I would dare say the people that approach me, and I'll be happy to share with Captain Jarvis, that if any of you know of any fishing vessels that want to rent slips, I'm a commercial marina. I will rent to commercial vessels. I can also rent to private yachts if somebody comes with a private yacht. I could, anything that's legal that I can rent to, I'll rent to. I can pretty much assure you that I have no intent to rent delivery vessels. But if it's legal, I'd hate to commit to something that, let's just say in 2 years from now, something happens wild with the fishing industry and all we have is delivery vessels. Well, I don't want to sign a paper saying that I can never rent delivery vessels. But if you guys pass that, make the moratorium permanent, that kind of controls. If there's no delivery vessels knocking on my door. And I also let me say one more thing. The first thing I did when I considered these docks was I contacted the city land use attorney to be certain, because I knew there was a lot of activity, a lot of conversation over the last several years when they were building the 53-slip marina. There was a moratorium. You shouldn't be able to build slips. You shouldn't be able to let vessels in. Y'all allowed, not all of you that are here today, but the Destin City Council allowed those people to build 53 slips when there was a moratorium going on, okay? First thing I did was I contacted Ms. Kopp and I asked her, is there a moratorium? I wanted to be certain. Is there a moratorium on docks? And she texted me back, emailed me back and said no. So I have that there's no moratorium on docks at the current time.
Mr. King?
For the record, you have parking that you've constructed on Mountain?
I'm redoing my parking lot, sir. I also got a variance to count my parking in my boat yard. I have 23 spots in my boat yard that I can use for parking for this set of docks. And I'm converting my entire parking lot. I plan to tear down my building and use the whole entire upland for a parking lot. So I should have sufficient space for parking. And I've been dealing with the city long enough to know that if I don't, I might have to leave some slips vacant if I don't have the space for them.
Mr. King?
I don't really have anything right this second. Thanks.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none? We have a negative motion. Ray, you want to read that off for us, please?
Motion is to not approve the application based on (11.05.01T) provision.
All right. Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm not going to support that just for the sake of the riparian rights, because I don't believe, based upon the definition that I've seen or have read, that this constitutes that. Especially considering the neighbors to the east or the west. One is himself, and the other one is Harbor Docks, and it's not an issue. So for that reason, I wouldn't support that particular motion.
All right, thank you. All right, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. All right, with that, we're going to take a break.
We will get back to this meeting in our very last section of this. If everyone can please turn to their seats. All right, get the coffee. Yep. All right, so we're going to be reconvening this meeting. Being in the sixth section of it, we're going down from the council members with Sweetser and Guile not here in attendance tonight. I will give the floor to Councilman Destin.
We got everybody back? Yep. Okay, my first item is a motion to direct staff to enter into negotiations with the Public Shopping Center to see if we can't get something in writing that shows that they are interested in working with the city to sell or make available for our use part of their property.
I'll second.
Motion, do I hear a second? Oh, sorry. I guess I'm 9 o'clock going. All right, any discussions? Seeing none, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so move.
Okay, my second item is a motion to direct the city manager, let me change that. Direct the land use attorney to work with the city manager and the head of community development to come up with a criteria for simplifying permitting process for what we would consider simple permits and to bring us back a proposed action item, and I would give them till the first meeting in May.
I second.
With a second, any discussions? Seeing none, call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
And on the third one, I was trying to get a copy of what our proposed... Darn thing. On the third one, I was working toward getting a copy of our proposed traffic corridor / also intersection of Stallman and 98 study that we have and bid from Bashville and Donovan to go forward with. I finally got the study, the proposal, but I don't know if you guys got it. I didn't get it till about an hour before this meeting. And it has a number of good parts to it, but I have not had enough time to really analyze what else we want to put in there. So if council would agree, I'll put that one off to the next meeting. That'll give us all time. You all get a copy of this document, which is what they're proposing to study and how they're proposing to study it. And then we can discuss that at the next meeting. And if that's agreeable, then I am done, Mayor.
All right.
I'm fine with that. I'll just request a copy because I didn't get one.
They were supposed to send it, but they didn't really send it till an hour before the meeting, so
sounds good to me.
Everybody needs to look at it.
Yep, the next one. All right, Councilman Bagby.
Thank you. Two things, Mayor. Number one, on the tower that Mr. Destin was talking about, I want a coverage map of what exists or doesn't exist, where there is no coverage, with the use of the water towers, the old Regions Bank / Destin Log Building, and wherever all the other antennas are. And I want to make sure that you have reached out, or we have reached out to Eglin Air Force Base, because one of the things that we've had a problem in the past is deconflicting their radars from structures, which is why when you look over at Okaloosa Island, they all look like they're chopped off at the top of those condos, because anything above a certain height will negatively impact, and if it negatively impacts the mission for Eglin, I can tell you I'm a hard no. So, excuse me. So I just need that information when you bring that proposal for the tower back to us. Also, we seem to have a lot of public records requests. I don't know, maybe part of it was for the city manager, deputy city manager thing, but I was talking to one of our peers, and unfortunately I didn't write their name down, but there is a city or a county that says basically if you are a elected member and you do a public records request, if it takes more than 2 hours of staff time, it has to come before the body to be approved. Otherwise, you can always do a public records request, but you have to pay the standard rate that any citizen would have to pay. And I think it may just be me, but it seems like we are running the heck out of our public records request folks. Ray, do you have, how much since the last meeting have you spent on public records requests just from members of the council?
I would say, speaking for the clerk's office, about 7 to 8 hours.
Okay, and then the attorney spent?
I'd estimate probably about 3 hours. There's a lot of redactions, particularly on some of those sensitive personnel issues to look at.
So I'm going to ask the city manager to bring back a draft, and I'll work with you, because I will try to find the city or county, I think it's a city, that has this, and then I'll bring back that resolution for the council's consideration. It doesn't prevent anybody from doing a public records request, whether they're elected or not elected, but it just puts some kind of parameters around so that we're not chasing our tail or having the staff chase their tail doing a lot of these public records requests. That's all I have.
Is that a motion?
No?
Nope.
Nope.
And if go ahead, I'll comment on
Go ahead.
that, if I may. When I first ran for this office and helped write the charter, I spent the first 2 years digging through all state statutes that I could find that had to do with municipal law and et cetera, et cetera. And I seem to recall a state statute that says city officials, let me turn this around, employees of a city, municipality must provide any information requested by an elected official. So we don't even need to do a public records request. State law says that information has to be provided to us, and that makes sense. Otherwise, how can you even make an informed attempt to govern? So I would suggest that we try to look through those state laws and see if we can't find the one I'm referring to. And if that's the case, then whoever is doing that is violating state statute, which if no one goes and looks, no one even understands.
And if that is an absolute, you would be right. I believe that you can put, and like I said, you can't say you can't have it. You can say there's a reasonable amount, and you can still have it. It would just have to come back before the body for approval.
Or of course, that
But-
would be an impediment to the reason to have the law. So I would suggest we research that.
Okay.
Go too far down the path.
Yep.
Am I getting direction to research that issue? Okay.
Councilwoman Neighbor?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. The first one is about the TDC is trying to do another TDC Little Adventures popsicle giveaway. And it's just for the 2 locations on Beasley and at Crystal Beach, not to take away from our current city run ones by some of our businesses here. It's just to help the TDC and get the word out basically to our visitors, and especially visitors and locals. And I think you've got a little bit more information on that web. We talked about it in the meeting, exactly that on the popsicle, it just says Little Adventures.
Yes, I did follow up after you inquired, and my understanding is it's just advertising Little Adventures itself. I do believe it may be June White Decker and then Short Crystal Beach are the 2 areas. That was the understanding I was left with.
Right, just those 2 little pop-up areas, that it's not the full length of all the beaches or anything like that, correct? So do I need to make a request or a motion to get this authorized for the TDC to allow that to be done?
I don't think a motion would hurt, or we can go with consensus, but a motion would be fine.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow the TDC to use the Little Adventures popsicles giveaway for the spring, summer timeframe.
All right, do I have a second?
It's free popsicles.
I'll second it for discussion. I have a question.
All right, with a second, Jimmy, if you want to go?
Yeah, my question is, the last time we had this conversation, I thought, I believe it was Kevin, but I may be wrong. Somebody brought up the issue that they weren't using a local popsicle vendor or a local, ice cream vendor or whatever, and our direction to the staff, and I thought the TDC, was that when they do that, they use a local vendor. And so is this popsicle vendor a local popsicle vendor?
Webb, can you explain, we did try at the TDC level to go to the local vendors, and because it is more of, it's a loss, am I correct on that? That they weren't really, it's not a moneymaker because they're giving them away for free?
I do not want to speak for Ms. Adams on that. I do not have all that information. I thought that it was a local vendor, but she is actually at the next meeting.
Do we want to just put this off and then talk to her when she comes to the next meeting and make that happen?
I would suggest that. I do not want to answer for the TDC on their activities.
Okay, cancel my request.
I can tell you for sure, last year, it was a local vendor. Yes, it was. Contrary to popular belief, it is not my business, it's my wife and my brother-in-law's business, and that deal was put together before I ever sat up here, just so that's clear.
Kevin?
But I can't say for sure if that's the case this year. I have no idea. I sell real estate for a living.
I do know they were trying to. I did not get the specific vendor, so it could very well be the same people since they were productive with them last year. So we can wait till the next meeting.
I would just say it would behoove us not to micromanage what the TDC is doing. Are we going to approve the curriculum for the Little Tykes Adventures? And do we want to put a member of the council in any kind of jeopardy, perceived or not? I would say that's something we should stay out of and let the TDC do their thing.
Councilman Schmidt?
Yeah, my only question was, what are we approving and denying what goes on out there? Because I thought they just have full ability to just kind of do what they please.
It's the county's and the TDC's operation. I don't know that we can dictate to them, unless we have criteria in our code or our LDC or something, what they do out there.
Were they just trying to get our permission, basically, as sort of like a goodwill permission, not like, hey, we don't care, it's the county and the TDC, we're just going to go to your beach at Crystal Beach, Crystal Shores. So I think the TDC is just trying to be good partners. So if anything, this was mainly let y'all know, but she'll be at the next meeting, so she can give us all the updates. So we'll just table this for now anyway. It doesn't sound like we need to approve it, okay? My second item is about the Joe's Bayou Code compliance. Trying to work with Lance, talking about assigning a code person, hiring a code person specifically for our busiest season, specifically starting May, and put them at Joe's Bayou and have them, that's where they're at, period. That's their job, is to be a presence to help us alleviate a lot of the rogue operators. So I didn't know if we needed to make a motion to authorize staff to hire somebody to make that a position for the summer, or add on to the code staff. Looking for direction, Lance or Kyle.
I would say it's not currently budgeted for an additional part-time temporary or seasonal, whichever we would call it, part-time seasonal. So yes, I would say you should direct me to probably bring back the numbers for it.
Okay, I'd like to direct city manager to please bring back the numbers to help us understand if we can afford a full-time during the summer code officer at the Joe's Bayou launch.
Just want to bring up a point on the employee, and it's not really a legal issue, but it happens. If we only hire for the summer, sometimes it's harder to find an employee because people want a permanent job. So maybe there's something that staff can look into, or city manager can look into, that during the off-season they do something else, but they're still with us. I mean, if we can't find a temporary employee, just a thought.
Can you bring us back numbers to support that? Thank you.
You made a motion, I need a second.
Do I, yeah.
And then we have the second to discussion. And my only comments with that would be, while we're also looking for a human body, I mean, there's also, I go to the car wash, and, other than the detailers there's not a physical person pushing people through the car wash. I know a boat ramp's completely different, but if we're trying to hire, we should also probably be looking at all options. And my option would be automate some kind of gated system and then allow that operator to then move along into more of a customer service role than a a teller collecting money. So I just wanted to throw that out there for staff and council to kind of hear that. I definitely am interested in more in automated, autonomous solutions as well. Yeah, I know we're talking about a code, but, you know, a gate would also help that. So I just want to throw that out there. So with that, I got a motion and second, call on the vote.
He's bringing back numbers to find out about getting staff, a budget amendment.
All right, ayes have it, so moved.
All right, thank you. My third item on the agenda is the amendment to the LDC related to the length of docks, and I've talked to Ms. Kopp about this. Could you help me put it in proper perspective on how we can avoid what we went through tonight, maybe in the future, holding it to where we have it?
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about that council could consider is just taking away the ability to get a variance, right? So that 200-foot limit is the limit. We just put a line in the code that says variances are not available for dock length, period. Or if you wanted to give a specific number, that would take probably a little bit more thought to figure out what is appropriate for the harbor, but my initial suggestion would just be take away the variance.
So do I make a motion to that, or do I?
Yes. You can direct us to prepare the ordinance and bring it back if you want it before the LDC rewrite, which I would suggest.
Yes, can I say that? Do I need to make a motion to do that? I make a motion to,
Disallow variances for dock length.
and
Second.
All right, I don't see any discussion, so we'll just call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
okay, the next one that I have is something that came up, talked to an FDOT planner who just left FDOT, is now working for a private company, said that the FDOT has money every year they have to spend, and that if Destin was to ask to help create 3 lanes from Destin Bridge to where it becomes the 3 lanes, et cetera, at Airport, and also, we could have them pay for a new Marler Bridge or an extension to the bridge. Can I direct staff and land use attorney, whoever it is that can reach out to FDOT and find out if this is the case, that if we just asked FDOT for monies that were extra every year, that if we were asking for them to give us that kind of authorization to do that extension?
Which road are we talking about 3-laning?
98, as you come off of Marler Bridge.
Bridge to Airport. I mean, we can make the inquiry if council wants us to.
Can I make a motion to have you inquire to find out how factual that is? And if it was, what was the timeline? I'm sure it would be done this year, next year, it'd probably be in the 5-year plan, but it would be, if they have monies and we asked for it, and they said that's all we had to have is someone asking.
So just to clarify, we're not asking for it, we're just asking if it's an option? Okay.
All right. All right, so let's, yeah, turn the mic on.
Yep. First question is, who's our TPO rep?
TPO would be Guile and I.
Okay. Because that's not the way roads work in Florida, my understanding. There's got to be a PD&E study. There's got to be, there's got to be it's got to be in the MPO or the TPO plan, which, oh, by the way, the state's probably going to, since there's 19 of them or something, they're going to try to consolidate those during this legislative session, it's my understanding. So, the staff, you can go ask the TPO or Emerald Coast Regional Council or whatever, I'm sure they can tell you. But there's not just money laying around for projects that haven't been vetted, haven't been established, haven't been, at least in the preliminary engineering and design. So I'm not sure. I don't want y'all just going out spending a lot of time. That I would send that to our TPO reps and say,
I'm
hey,
happy to
go
take that as a
do.
legislation sponsor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Mayor, got it. Okay, and then the last thing I have is, I'd like to nominate Gary Jarvis for the Short-Term Rental Committee.
Second.
On the second. All right, call on the vote, no discussion.
All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Pam said smoky.
All
All
right.
right.
All right, anything else?
Thank you for your volunteering attitude there, Gary.
Can I ask a question while we're having staff draft? And this would probably be a separate ordinance when you're drafting hers, but can we look at bringing variances out of the hands of the Board of Adjustment and back to the council?
Yes. So are we talking about not having a Board of Adjustment?
That's their only job, isn't it?
Yeah,
They
that's their
also do like appeals of code interpretations, but those are pretty much their only job. Yeah. You could do both of those things if you'd like.
I'd like to second that.
Meaning sometimes if the community development director or any designee of
Yeah.
the city manager, but it's frequently the community development director, makes a code interpretation and the applicant doesn't agree, they have an appeal to the BOA right now.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. I know it's not my turn, but I think it's time to bring that home.
All right, and you have the second?
Second.
All right, any discussions on this?
What we're gonna do is tell them to do it, or are we gonna?
Yep, we're done.
They're gonna, you gotta make an ordinance. Yeah. They're
What?
gonna change.
Well, I'm asking, are we gonna look at the pros and cons? Because we did it both ways, and there was a reason we switched to them. Not too happy with some of the variances that have been coming down the pike, but there's usually cons to every action.
Okay.
To you, if you want us to, I mean, we can prepare the ordinance and then you can talk about pros and cons, or we can just give you pros and cons. But I'll say this, the Board of Adjustment is a monthly board, but they don't meet monthly. We don't get variances all that often. It's a few times a year, so.
Yeah, I would ask that you just draft the ordinance, and then we can discuss pros and cons when we're discussing the ordinance.
All right, so there's your motion. With a second, we'll call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Right. Councilman King.
Nothing for me tonight, thanks.
All right, Kevin, batter up.
Mr. Destin, can you please repeat what you said earlier about records requests and Florida statutes? Because I couldn't really hear some of the points you were making. Would you mind?
I believe that in Florida statutes, or at least it was, a law that says employees of a municipality shall provide information to the elected officials, period. We don't have to make a public records request. And we'll look into that. And if it does say that, then there's probably some kind of sanctions if those are not
Provided, you're saying?
provided. Yeah, and it's been a long time since I
So
read
you were
through
saying
that.
it more in the lines of that we don't have to act, like, it's just.
If we ask for information
we just
from
get
an
it.
employee, they, by state law, must provide it to us.
So was that kind of Mr. Bagby was separate, y'all are two different sides of that discussion then? Would that,
Mr. Bagby was talking about a city or a county, wasn't sure, that had
Okay.
put in some restrictions on that flow of information,
okay,
which I think may
sure.
violate that state statute if it's still there.
I got you. Thank you I couldn't hear earlier. Thank you. Let's see. G1's done. G2, I would like to nominate Mr. Joshua Cowson for membership of the Town Center CRA Advisory Committee and thank him for sitting here this evening.
All right. Second, call the vote. All right, congratulations.
Thank you. Picnicking Splash Pad Winter Destin. Do we have any update or changes to what we can allow everybody to do over there?
Any changes from the last information I sent you?
Well, I was under the impression that you can't do it within 4 feet, and I think somebody at the city out there measuring. I went out there to measure the distance between the splash pad and the picnic tables, and it looked like somebody's already made those measurements, so I kind of assumed that's what. There was tape all along the lines of the patio out there at 4 feet.
Oh, okay, well, it is 4 feet, but the entire tile to that upright barrier is all actually a pool deck. So that's all a pool deck.
So when I spoke to the health people of the state, they said from the edge of the splash pad to the picnic table.
At least 4 feet.
And it's
At
more than 4 feet
least.
away
Right.
from the edge of the splash pad.
So it has to be at least 4 feet, which it is, and it's more, but,
So could we change it then to allow people to eat there?
I mean, it's a pool deck. So what happens with all that food that when people eat, it goes into the pool? I mean, you know what it looks like under,
Right. So my only issue with that, and I have a lot of people asking about this, is that we first told them they couldn't do it because it's 4 feet away from the splash
No.
pad, and that's the state law.
Right.
Now it's because it kind of makes a mess, so it's, to
no,
me,
it's
kind
a
of
pool
conflicting.
deck. It has to be at least 4 feet, but it can be more. Just like, you know, a pool that is fenced in, you don't usually have food within that pool deck.
So is it a state requirement to not allow eating at those
At
picnic
a pool
tables?
deck. On the pool deck.
Maybe I'm just confused, but it's more than 4 feet away.
Having operated a commercial establishment with a pool, you can't have food on the pool deck. You can have bottled
It says within
water.
4 feet, though.
No.
That's what it says in
No.
the,
It has to be a
Pool deck,
minimum.
it doesn't matter if the pool deck has to be at least 4 feet, but the pool deck can be 20 feet, is my understanding. And so the list of rules that they require you to post at a public facility is no food or animals or whatever on the pool deck, except with the exception being bottled water, because you cannot, they want you to stay hydrated or whatever. I don't know that, or it's probably a state law that somebody put in there who owns a bottled water company, for all I know.
I apologize, and I'm a lot of people asking about this, so I'm trying to be clear. But the state said no food or drink can be on or within 4 feet of the splash pad. The splash pad was the edge of, no, can be on or within 4 feet of the splash pad. I talked to her specifically from the state, and she said within 4 feet. So it's more than 4 feet away from the splash pad. So what am I missing?
I think the operative word is on.
Okay. So it's just me who thinks that I'm interpreting what they said about within 4 feet.
I don't know splash pad, I know pools. Pools, you can't have it on the pool deck.
Well, the state says it's got to be not within 4 feet. Am I misinterpreting that?
I mean, I grew up, it was called the wet deck, and the wet deck is, it is as big as it is. So with a minimum of 4 feet, but it can be.
All right, so Melissa Marta said, Mr. Schmidt, I'm referring to the wet deck. A minimum of 4 feet around the actual pool area. The terms public pool and wet deck are both defined in the Florida Building Code. Okay. The wet deck is the area around the entity that cannot have food, beverage, or be obstructed. Essentially, a clean, clear path for reasons surround whichever pool type is being used. I'm referring to the wet deck, a minimum of 4 feet around the pool. So what am I missing? Because it's more than 4 feet. So we could do it. No?
No,
I mean, I think it's silly.
I think
I
the
think we should be able to
minimum
eat there, but
is
it
what
sounds
we're
like-
missing.
A minimum of 4 feet.
It has to be at least 4 feet. It can be more. And ours is more, and so all that is called the wet deck, the pool deck.
Is there a other place that these?
I guess
tables
all I
go?
can ask then is if we could just be a little bit more clear. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and if I'm completely wrong, but I would love, because somebody went out there and measured, put tape on the ground, and if you could just maybe make me feel a little bit more comfortable about this so I could tell some moms about it, I'd really appreciate it.
We can do that. We can also put some additional picnic tables in
Something.
locations that we know
Right.
are okay.
But if you could please just verify that language, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think just from a confusion, if you put benches there instead of tables, I think you're setting people up to eat at these
Right,
picnic
and I
tables.
understand the whole trash thing, but
Yeah.
I just want to be consistent with
Are those able to
If it's
move?
state or not.
The picnic tables, are they like,
I mean, they're not gonna, yeah,
I know they're
anything
heavy,
can be
but
done.
they're mobile if we had the right
Yeah.
equipment?
I mean, we can move them, I guess.
Okay, all right.
Appreciate it. That's all I had tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, so that is me. All right, so the first thing is, I just wanted to make official if I could be the pickleball legislative sponsor. I've been working with some private entities, and I think we have a pretty good partnership lined up. Yeah.
You can certainly take it and run with it, but you can't be a legislative sponsor because you can't legislate. You're not a council member.
I would say is designate Bobby as the fact finder
That's
related.
exactly
Yeah, as long
That's
as,
exactly
yeah,
what I'm
whatever you
saying.
want to call me, you can, listen, I'm not much for titles, whatever you want to call me, I'm cool with. I'll be a fact finder, y'all cool with me being a fact finder for the pickleball? All right, I appreciate that. All right, can I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
Second.
All right, vote. Awesome, thank you guys for that. All right, something I wanted to bring up is we have that ADA mats, and we've had a little bit of discussion back and forth, so I just wanted to get some direction up here before we really get staff and legal team to put a couple hours into getting the FWC permit. We have a 50-foot and 100-foot ADA compliant beach mats. They're not in use right now, so I was just hoping to bring that up for a discussion and hopefully give council some direction and some leeway to find locations for these mats and go through the FWC permitting process to get them approved.
Do you want me to make a motion to have city
Please.
staff look into what we need to do to put these mats in place according to the state, city, and county laws?
Basically, yeah, I just need a motion because it's going to take me
I'll
a
make
couple
that
hours.
motion.
Okay. Yeah, it's that, yeah. All right, I got a second. All right, so discussion?
What are the logistics of doing such a thing? I mean, they need to be pulled up every night?
Yeah, so that's something we would have to look into. I know one of the big things is it's got to be straight lined. It can't have like the branching T's or L's outward. And I know in Tampa and a couple of those places, to comply even more with FWC, they roll them up. So I think that used to be part of the fact finding and seeing exactly what it takes to get the permit across. Yep, all right, so calling the vote. All right, I just have it so moved, thank you. And then something I'm just going to put under my name for next council meeting is red light cameras on Highway 98, specifically in the 3-lane highways. I'm kind of already doing some due diligence on the back end, and some of our cities, sister cities on the west of us have gone through it. Same kind of implementation. They're a city, they have 98 as their main corridor, and some of the initial information that I found is pretty remarkable of how effective these things are. So I just wanted to put that under my name for next time, and I'll have a bunch of information to hand out prior to the council meeting. So that's just for Ray to put under my name. And with that, I have nothing else, so land use attorney.
Thank you. Just one item. As you all know, the fleet filed an appeal in the Burt Harris case, so I am requesting to call for an executive session on March 20th, 2023 at 5:30 PM pursuant to Section 286.0118 Florida statutes in the case of Destin Fishing Fleet Incorporated versus City of Destin, Okaloosa County Court Case Number 2019 CA 000425F.
Yeah, March 20th, 5:30.
And ask the city clerk to get a court reporter.
Do we need a motion on this?
Consensus is fine with me. Okay.
All right, motion and second. I'll call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Thank you.
All right, city attorney.
Only thing I have is last meeting I was directed to look at what the qualifications are under the state statute for CRA members. So I looked at that. It's pretty clear, right on point. You have to be either a resident of the CRA district boundaries or own a business within the CRA district boundaries. Right now, our current resolution is a little bit narrower than that. I think you also have to be a resident of the city. So if y'all want to amend it to include the breadth of the statute, we can do that, or y'all can leave it alone. I think you did with Mr. Council today. We have potential for a quorum finally, so
I'd like to make a motion to make that amendment for the breadth of the, whatever the state allows us to do. If there's, just to have that option for the future, if there's more openings, it allows business owners to come sit on that board.
All right, I have a motion on the table. Do I hear a second? You got a second before you vote in. All right. Dies for lack of a second. All right, at this point, anything else? Not seeing none. All right, so public comments at this point, if you have anything left to say, come on up. Come on up. You're gonna, 9:31. I promised the staff 9:30.
I don't think you made it. Sandy Trammell, 3823 Indian Trail, but my first comment is about the ADA mats. That was brought up at the Parks and Rec Committee meeting. So if you would like us to continue on with that research, we can do that and take that out of your hands. That's a perfect thing for a committee to do.
Perfect.
One thing I will tell you is that with the limited number of members that, staff, that we have, the mats have to be rolled up and brought in, just like everything else on the beach, every night. We discussed partnering with the, which we already are a partner, with the fire department to get the big balloon tire wheelchairs that can go all the way down, or anything else like that, and then the mats would not be required because we already have the ramps to the sand. We can just push on farther with that one. And that way we would not encumber the staff to be out there every day at dusk rolling mats up and rolling them down before everybody got there in the morning. Just a consideration. But that's a great thing for us to take on and to do the research for you.
Awesome. And I would just add that, a lot of them aren't necessarily wheelchair bound, but just, limiting in their mobility. I think the mats just serve a more broad spectrum of clients, whether they're elderly or, they got injured and they have a leg brace or something. So I think the scope is beyond a wheelchair.
It is beyond the wheelchair, but it also requires someone to go out there and flatten that mat, because if that mat's put on rocky, that's not any better than walking
So I would
in the
also,
sand,
if there's a way to
honestly.
also
So-
think about
so we can
partnering
look
with
at
the
all
beach
of the
chair
options.
vendors and seeing if there's an opportunity with the beach chair vendors as well. But yeah, I would definitely allow the committee to look at the locations that would best fit this and the opportunities where we don't have to encumber the burden of taking care of the mats. Anyone else? Yes, sir. And 9 minutes today.
Dude, it's good because I talk to you all the time. I understand Kevin's frustration with this process. The Florida Sunshine Law really sucks for legislative, innovative, visionary type of things, but that's the rules that you all and I played under for 4 years and 8 months, thanks to Parker. One thing from that early discussion, it was a little contentious, that I really think the council needs to do, and I did it when I was mayor, is about every 3 to 6 months, pull out the city charter and read Articles 1, 2, and 3. It tells you exactly what the city manager's responsibility is. It tells exactly what y'all's responsibilities are and the intent. Now, Mr. Destin probably doesn't have to read it that often because he probably wrote it or had a hand in it. But just for your own edification, being on this council, you guys are elected at large to do a free job. It's a thankless job, and I understand that. But just because you're up there doing a free job and you were voted and elected, it doesn't mean that you can't act professional in how you legislate or go through the process. I think it'd be real important, especially in a city manager form of government, that if you have grievances with how the city's being run, that those grievances be taken directly to the man who's responsible and you treat it, that's how you do good oversight. And if you don't get the satisfaction that you would like, then you can bring it to the dais. But that earlier today didn't have a good look. Me sitting here and the people on TV. It's not it's not even from the professional level, just from the human being level, it's probably not the way to go. Lastly, I still want to, I think it's real important that we get that permanent moratorium on livery vessels and settle that once and for all, because there is a lot of changes happening. I think the idea of getting rid of your variance board is a bad idea, because one of your duties as council members is a fiduciary duty to keep our butts out of court. Tonight, I think you gave Kim and Kyle a little more job security with your decision. That remains to be seen, of course. But those are the things that you have to kind of keep in mind. Lastly, what I think is going to be real important to the city is these advisory panels. You know, I'm sure y'all hear about, like, the city doesn't listen to us, and some of it's the people's fault. They're normally not a big crowd like we had tonight. Community involvement allows you guys to make better decisions. But that being said, sometimes you have no other people to rely on as the ears and eyes and the mouths of your community than your advisory panels. And so to get rid of an advisory board, I think weakens that communication aspect. You know, so I really, when you guys, when you take a good hard look at your advisory panels, I think it's going to be real important to show the city that you care about the community involvement by caring about these panels. And I'm not saying that just because I got on one. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, closing public comments, and the meeting's adjourned.